We just don't want them to trip going down the stairs and never make it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Today's
Recording in
Tuesday,
progress.
June 21st, 2020, and we're here for a town board meeting and also a CDA meeting. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Tim, can you please take the lead?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Tim. Tim? And do we have someone from the faith community with us today?
Yes.
We do. And sir, can you come up forward? And your name is?
Andrew Montoro from Community Baptist Church.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Reverend.
Yes, for joining us today.
Want to bring the microphone up with us?
Okay,
Okay.
let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come before you this evening, and we thank you for the privilege of coming before you, knowing, Lord, that you are the God of all wisdom. Lord, that we ask on behalf of the town, on behalf of the town board and the leaders, on behalf of the citizens of the town, Lord, we are asking for your wisdom tonight. In the things that are to be considered, we pray, Lord, that people would understand and people would seek what is right and what is just, and Lord, in accordance with the laws, and Lord, you would help a calm spirit to prevail across the meeting, and Lord, that we could see what is right, honorable, and what you would will come to pass. We ask for that wisdom and grace that only you can give, that you would give the leadership and the guidance that our leaders need. Lord, we ask you for that, what only you can give. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, Reverend Montoro. And before we begin, we have 3 brief announcements. A reminder that tomorrow, Wednesday at 6 p.m. in the town boardroom, we'll be hosting our quarterly water forum. Those interested may attend in person or via Zoom with the credentials that are going to be posted on our website. And we're also going to be filming the forum on Channel 22. Second, this Friday is graduation for all our Riverhead High School students. On behalf of the entire town board, and I want to extend an advance big congratulations to the class and all the members of the 2022 graduation class. We look forward to hearing about your accomplishments, and as you embark on your next chapter, please stay in touch and let us know where you're going and what's going on. But most importantly, please be safe. And thirdly, June 29th at 6 p.m. is the State of the Town address at the Atlantis Sea Storeroom. You must register. You can find it on our website at the Town of Riverhead. And moving forward, I'm going to ask for a first and a second to close the town board meeting and open the community development meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Diane. Can you please call the vote?
Kern,
Yes.
Rothwell,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
The town board meeting is closed and the CDA meeting is now open.
Okay. And we're going to ask our CDA Director, Dawn Thomas, to please come to the podium. And I think we're going to approve the minutes.
Good evening. The CDA meeting is open, and we have just the minutes of the April 19th and May 18th, 2022 meetings for approval. So we just need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern?
Yes.
Rothwell?
Yes.
Roth's absent. Hubbard?
Yes.
Aguirre?
Yes.
The minutes of those 2 meetings are approved, and unless there is comment on a general topic, your business is concluded. So we're just looking for general comments on CDA matters.
Okay.
John McAuliffe, Furling Woods.
Good afternoon, John.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm just wondering if we could get an update on the transfer of the EPCAL property from CDA to IDA, and particularly, I'm sure you noticed a week or two ago, the news stories that the Germaisians were having substantial problems in paying the debt on, or debt service on publicly secured loans. So this is obviously an ongoing financial problem for them and inevitably for the town. So I'm just wondering if you could give us some state of play about where you are in those transfer discussions.
Okay, well, Don, we were informed that they were gonna have some type of, plan, delivered to the IDA. Remember, that is an independent body, and they operate, with confidentiality and independence. As far as I know, as of today, they haven't submitted that. As soon as, we'll wait to the end of the month, and then we'll pursue it further, so, thank you. Anyone else wanna come forward regarding general comments on any CDA matter?
I'll just add, Supervisor, I'm confident that the IDA, there's a deadline for the application. I'm confident that the IDA will vet them very well and make sure they're
right.
financially secure.
So, based on the answer that Mr. McAuliffe got, Ellen Hoyle, Riverhead.
Thank you.
Is it my understanding that the IDA as an independent authority is dealing with confidential information, and therefore we will, at no point will we ever know until they've finally made a decision what it's going to be?
I think
What
we
the
have to
process
contact
is?
the IDA as far as, I know you're an attorney also, so, as far as the IDA, it's an independent, and they operate under independent regulations, so I would contact the IDA.
Does it concern any of you that 555 is now in default?
Well, it's not part of the contract, okay, so.
But I'm not asking that, I'm asking if it
I'm
concerns
telling
you.
you what it is, and I'm not going back and forth. We don't want anyone who's in default, but it's not part of the contract. It's a binding contract. It was signed by two parties, and you can't just walk away if somebody's having financial problems. And I know this has been addressed before. It's being addressed with the IDA. They are very competent. They're going to make sure, as the Congressman Rothwell stated, they're going to
Congressman?
ensure.
You're
that they're
Congressman
gonna
now,
vet
Mr.
them.
Rothwell.
So, okay, so thank you.
Ellen,
What?
I'm the liaison to the IDA board, and I can tell you that no application has been submitted yet, but again, they have 6
Well,
months, and we're coming up on
Would it be
the 6
possible,
months.
as the liaison to the IDA, to set up some kind of public forum where we can hear what's going on? So it doesn't feel like everything's being done behind shadows?
What's going on is the IDA is waiting for an application, so to, hold a public forum, they're just gonna tell you what
Well,
I'm
but I
telling
mean,
you.
once they get the
IDA holds
application and
public
there's something
forum.
to talk about, like, can we have a forum where it will be discussed
It
as
will
to
be,
what the
when
application
they
is?
submit their application, the IDA will have a public meeting like they always do, so the public
Yeah.
is invited to it.
Is it gonna be is it gonna be one of those meetings where we're gonna have the meeting and make the decision on the same day, or are we gonna have a meeting and talk about it and then decide?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Laura Jen Smith from Laurel. My understanding it's a joint application, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so would we be able to see the application that's submitted before it goes to the IDA if you're submitting on behalf of the town to the IDA?
Once the application is submitted, it's submitted to both of us, and it will become available.
So you're not going to review the application that's submitted to the IDA jointly by the town first? Before it's
We can have a
submitted?
discussion, but it's not submitted yet. Let's see what they submit, make sure it's appropriate. It can be returned by the IDA, it might not meet their standards, but the application itself has not been submitted, and it will be submitted to us. And of course, anything that's submitted, especially something of this nature, is going to get reviewed.
Yeah, the IDA
Yeah,
has
I'm
to.
a little unclear.
So Laura, what happens is the IDA has to accept the application. To what Yvette is saying, if the application is not filled out properly, it's gonna go right back to them until the IDA gets what's required in the application.
But my question is, we're jointly submitting the application. It's the town, or is it CDA, I'm not sure if it's the town or the CDA, along with Calverton Aviation and Technology, are jointly submitting the application to the IDA. Is that?
We're not, the town is not submitting an application. The application is being submitted by the applicant, which is
But
555.
aren't we a joint applicant to the IDA?
Dawn,
to
can
the-
you
Yes,
come up
yes.
with the
Dawn,
CDA
why
matter?
don't you, we are. Dawn, why
Dawn,
don't
did
you
you want
explain
to?
this further? Is it a joint?
I don't think so.
It's a joint application between the CDA and the applicant, CAT, and to the extent that FOIL allows disclosure of that application, it will be available.
Okay, great.
So I guess that was my question, since it is a joint application, is it going to be reviewed by the town board in an open forum? You know, whether it's at a work session or anything else prior to
The
submitting it, since...
IDA has an open forum, they have their process and they have public hearings, and it will be completed through them.
I do understand they have an open forum to assess the application and to review it. I get that. But what I'm asking is as we're taking our large asset, jointly filing an application to the IDA on behalf of both parties for this, right? So my question is the town going to review the application? I understand that 555 is responsible for, Calverton Aviation is responsible for basically doing the bulk of the application. But my question is it going to be reviewed in some sort of open forum prior, so that you approve it? I mean, they can put whatever they want in there, right? So are you going to review it prior to submitting it to the IDA for approvals? I'm not saying that you need to do the application all over, but...
It's not going to come to us, it's going to go to the IDA. The IDA will have it before we have it.
Right, but we're a co-applicant,
Correct.
right? But we're not going to review it first?
No, I'm not saying we're not going to review it first. I'm going to say when they submit it, they're going to submit it to the IDA.
On the town's behalf?
Correct.
But without you having eyes on it prior to that?
They will give it to them first. If they give it to us 2 minutes later, I guess we get it second. I don't know how to answer the question. It's going to the IDA. Will we be privy of it? I'm sure we will be.
So it's my understanding, so you're not going to review the application before, the town's application to the IDA?
It goes to them first.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
But you don't understand it.
So special counsel to the town board and town attorney's office will review, obviously, before it gets submitted, yeah.
All right, so that was simple. Of course, we're going to review everything as a town board. We're not going to neglect that. So we're going to move forward. You have one person? Okay, we have someone. Ron Harari? Okay. Yeah, Devin's charged with that.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam Supervisor, you previously represented to the taxpayers of this town, along with other members of this board, that you would fully vet Calverton Aviation. My question is, have you now disavowed your obligation to consider the financial condition of Calverton Aviation and its affiliates? And if so, based upon whose advice?
All right, you have any other comments from Harari? You make them all together at one time, and either we will respond or we will not respond.
Is it a tough question, madam?
No, it's not. We just want to answer all your questions.
Have you disavowed your repeated assurance that the town will fully vet Calverton Aviation? Yes or no?
I'm not in a trial, Mr. Harari, and the yes and the no, what I can tell you is that the IDA will fully vet them, and the IDA is part of the town. So we're going to move forward from this question. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm confused. So is the IDA independent of the town, or is it part of the town? Because now I'm confused.
It's an independent functioning body, but
So
it
it's not
falls
part of the
under,
town?
it falls under the town of Riverhead. It's the Riverhead
It's not part of the
IDA.
town
Just
government.
like you have
it
the
part of
free
the town
library,
government?
and you have the anti-bias, you have different units, right? You have different groups. They're not totally separate.
They all answer, all those all those people answer to the town board that you
No.
just named.
No,
The
one is
IDA,
appointed,
Enterprise Task
one is
Force.
appointed to the body, and then they govern as a body, but they don't
No, they
necessarily have to
govern.
do what we
There's-
tell them to
there's-
do.
The Enterprise Task Force doesn't govern
We're
anybody.
we're giving an example.
The IDA is what Ken is talking about.
It's an independent organization
Dawn?
that's not part of the town government.
That is correct.
Thank
They
you.
are an independent agency, that is correct. They
Yes.
are not part of the town board. The town board has no say or control over what they do. The town board only appoints members to the IDA. That's what we do.
So then, going to contracts, because I know you like those, Supervisor. So you're buying a house from the seller, right? You're doing it alongside two other people, so you have two purchasers buying one house, okay? Would you want your signature on that contract, or are you gonna let just one person sign that contract?
If the IDA, through their vetting process.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not the town is going to review, prior to submission of the application,
Oh, it's general comment.
the application itself. Because you're putting your name on it without reviewing it, is what it sounds like.
So the joint application is the result of the agreement that you reach with CAT. Most recently, that was the subject of an extensive public engagement process, and the board determined to move forward. That will be a joint application. The extent of the town's part on that will be the properties that the town is transferring, whether that application conforms to the agreement that you made with CAT per letter and per the contract of sale is what the outside counsel is going to review, and provided it meets with those parameters, which you have already discussed and the public is already aware, then it will move forward. If it doesn't, then our counsel will make sure that it doesn't, and it's not that complicated.
Will that be done in open forum then?
What would be
The review of the councils?
No, lawyers don't review things in open.
No, I'm not asking for them to review it. When they submit their findings, will the town then discuss what those findings may or may not have been?
Whose findings?
Outside councils.
That's between the town board and outside counsel.
Just want to remind you, the comments have to be made at the mic so that the minutes can pick them up.
Do you want to ask your question?
Yep. Okay. So according to Mr. Thomas, the outside counsel is going to come up with their opinion as to whether or not they think this is a good application. And they're going to report it to you.
They're going to provide that legal advice to the board, yes.
Okay. The question then is the board then going to submit to the public for observation or review or anything else what that opinion might have been?
Well, if the application moves forward, I think you would
No,
safely
no,
assume
that's
that
not
they
good
were
enough.
okay with it.
No. Just saying that, just submitting an application doesn't meet the standard that the application is good. Just means I'm going to submit the application. It doesn't mean it's a good contract, just means I signed it.
So the prior resolutions authorized, the town board voted, they agreed to a letter agreement with CAT to submit this application. So that's what they're gonna come up with, and on the advice
So
of
at no point is the town going to
council.
say whether or not this is a good application or not.
The town board, well, I would assume, make that determination when they get the advice
But
from
are they
their
ever going to share
attorney.
their determination with the public? Other than finding out, oh yeah, by the way, we submitted the application.
Well, the public will know when the application is submitted to the IDA.
But we're not going to know prior to that what may have been in the
You know that
application.
they're working on it now.
But at no
right?
point between now and the moment it's submitted, at which point it's submitted, are we going to know what might possibly be in that application?
No.
There you go.
Why would you?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
what?
private application.
And then the application would be before the IDA.
Public's not going to get it before the IDA or before the town board, Ellen. I mean, that's only common sense.
Yeah.
John McAuliffe again, Rolling Woods, having opened this stream of discussion
Thanks, John.
with some innocence. I want to come back to, because I think some very interesting things have come out in the dialogue, and I want to get away from the formalities of the legal side of it, but to look at, in a sense, the governance question and the reality of the issue of EPCAL. I mean, as I understand it now, to the IDA, this quasi-independent body, there will be an application which is submitted by two parties. the CAT and the CDA of Riverhead. What all is being said is that given the sensitivity of this issue, given that there is a certain level of distrust about whether the attorney who is handling this is a disinterested party as opposed to having a vested interest in the particular project, I think there is a hope that the town board will take responsibility, whether not, and I don't think in a work session, but in an open town board meeting, before it is formally submitted to the IDA, that you will open to the public what is actually in this application, so you can get response from the public before you submit the application with the Germaisians. In other words, there's a sense that that should not be simply a behind the scenes or attorney's function with the board, but it is rather an issue that ought to be a community issue, and that you should, it is perhaps unusual, but I think this whole thing is unusual. The whole idea of moving it from CDA to IDA is a fundamentally unusual, and it may be a correct move to take, but I think to have the record clean, to have this discussed before it goes to the IDA, when you have this final application, would be beneficial to the town and not get us into a situation where all of a sudden it's in front of the IDA and we're dealing in a whole different set of parameters about a document which in fact may not have met the interests of the town, but may be once again meeting the interests of the buyer.
Thank you for your comment, John.
I just wanted to add, I think the application ultimately is a public,
Yep.
I think the application ultimately is a public, and turn it on.
Might want to hit it, see if it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, Dawn, you need to speak directly.
The application is a joint application, as we discussed. It will conform to the letter agreement that the town board entered into, which was discussed at a public forum and ultimately approved by town special counsel, but will be probably a public document before it is submitted. I don't think there's anything, there may be some things that wouldn't be disclosable per FOIL, but not on your end. It would be on the applicant's end, just financial issues there, so. I think that it's not, as we discussed, it's not terribly complicated.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you,
And it
Dawn.
actually, just to clarify, it is not an uncommon process at all.
Oh, yeah, it is practiced throughout the whole state. All right. Anything else? We're still at the CDA, Dawn, so
Any other general comments on CDA matters?
if not, you can close
Okay,
it.
so we can go ahead and close the CDA meeting and reopen the town board meeting. We need a motion and a second to do that.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. Kern,
Yes.
Rothwell,
Yes.
Hubbard,
yes.
Aguirre.
Yes,
Okay, CDA meeting is closed and town board meeting is over.
great. Thank you, Dawn. Moving forward, can I have a first and a second to approve the minutes for the regular town board meeting of May 18th, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Great. Diane, please call the vote.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Okay, Diane, I think we have some figures to report and correspondence.
Yes, under correspondence, I had 7 letters of opposition to the drive-through windows in the Wading River area. 1 was in favor of, but I'll read the names. Michelle Doherty, Barbara Fontana, Linda Rundlet, Bernadette Budd, Foster Romano, Marlene D. Filippo, Stacy Moran, and they were all in favor. I did receive...
No, they were opposed.
I'm sorry.
We're against
I'm
it.
sorry, I take that back, opposed. I did receive 3 additional letters after the agenda was posted, and these are also opposition letters. Carolyn Hal Mishkin, Steve Shapiro, Bruce Kagan, and there was 1 in favor, and that was Long Island Builders Institute.
Just want to also know there are some residents that did email us individually too. And so that they, I went through the emails and we received them, so thank you.
Okay, there was a letter from Christina Falsetta, and she's in support of restriction on firearms businesses in the town and opposition to site plan application for shooting range on Elton Street. Marilyn Banks Winters sent a letter of opposition for the site plan application of NeoC Firearms Development. Charles Cuddy sent a letter, and he had comments on Workforce Housing Act. And there was a petition with 8 signatures in support of a special permit application of home occupation at the bakery at 265 Washington Avenue, Jamesport. Under reports, the tax receiver, total tax collection to date as of June 16th, $168,969,554.64. Tax receiver May utility collection report, $264,739.10. Wading River Fire District 2021 financial statements were also submitted, and that's all I have.
Great. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Diane. Today's first public hearing was scheduled for 6:05. The time now is 6:40, and we are going to open up a public hearing for consideration of a local law to amend Chapter 301 Business. I'll ask our department head planner, Jeff Murphy, to please come forward and briefly brief us on this matter, please.
Good evening, Jefferson Murphy.
Good evening.
The hearing that you have before you tonight is to consider a code amendment that would allow drive-through facilities in the hamlet of Wading River along the Route 25A corridor. It would only apply to the business CR zoning use district in that area, which involves approximately 23 properties and 47 acres. Right now, there is a strict prohibition of drive-through facilities unless you're a bank or a pharmacy. What this code amendment would seek to do is to allow drive-through facilities as an accessory to either a restaurant, coffee shop, cafe, or an ice cream parlor. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, do we have any members from the public that wish to be heard? This is your public hearing.
Could you make sure they talk into the mic?
Sure, we'll do that. You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi, good evening.
When you come up to the microphone, anybody who's coming up, just make sure you're speaking right into the mic, okay? So
Okay.
everyone can hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just want to lift it up a little bit.
Yeah, towards your
Can you
mouth. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Bale. I live in Wading River.
Hi.
And I'm a member of the Wading River Civic Association. Thank you for letting me speak. For many years, Wading River residents have strived to maintain our rural character while providing for orderly growth and development. This desire has been manifested over and over in countless hours and resources devoted to meetings, hamlet studies, and comprehensive plans, resulting in the creation of optimal code ordinances and zoning use districts. There was, and still is, strong sentiment in Wading River that the community didn't want the degree and intensity of commercial and retail development that was characteristic of many communities to the west of Wading River. There was also concern about how increased commercial and retail development would make it increasingly difficult to drive along Route 25A and would be problematic at places such as the intersection of Wading River, Manor Road, and 25A. Resultantly, drive-through windows, which are potent traffic generators, were discouraged. In the business CR zoning use district, the town code specifically prohibits drive-through windows for restaurants. Elimination of this restriction is not a sound idea for several reasons, but is especially egregious in regard to the building on the southwest corner of Route 25A and Wading River Road. Allowing drive-through windows at restaurants will affect traffic flow. The intersection mentioned above is already highly congested. Adding more cars will further exacerbate the situation, especially from westbound cars attempting a left turn into the restaurant parking lot. And where will they exit? Onto Wading River Road? What if they want to make a left turn toward Route 25A? traffic exiting from the post office or gas station across the street will only make that more dangerous. The current update of the Riverhead Comprehensive Plan has identified that intersection as a candidate for safety and capacity improvements. Adding more traffic would not be an improvement to either one. Over the past 20 years, flooding of the driveway and other portions of the property have been present after heavy rain events, and the orientation of the existing building leaves little flexibility for cars to maneuver around one another. A deserted building is not desirable in any situation. However, the property owner is responsible for the upkeep of the property. It is not the town's responsibility to change the code because the building is abandoned. And the argument that a drive-through window will keep the business afloat is spurious, as there is a similar business in Mattituck that is thriving without the addition of a drive-through window. Also, the handicap will not be slighted if, as most innovative restaurants have done, provisions for curbside service and contactless ordering are initiated. Other problems associated with drive-through windows include more littering and more auto emissions from idling automobiles. But most importantly, a precedent will be set, allowing more drive-through windows in more establishments. Where will that end? Please consider carefully the rashness of this act and how detrimental it will be to the quality of life in Wading River. We need you to help us keep our rural character, not destroy it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You get 2 bales for the price of 1. Bad joke. That's the only kind I have. Jefferson, before I begin my remarks, and they're not going to be as well organized as Stephanie's were, but Jefferson talked about there are 47 acres involved in this. Does that include the Zumas parcel next to the drugstore? Is Jefferson here?
Jeff?
Where's Jeff?
Are you talking about the CVS?
Yes.
Yes.
It includes that 47 acres. Okay. All right. That's relevant for what I'm going to say a little bit later. All right. Thank you. Now, I hope I'm talking to a board of 4 individuals, 5, the invisible guy over there, right, that are at least have an open mind on this issue, because I've read some things, et cetera, that kind of like suggest that that may not be the case, but here I am anyway. I saw the Channel 22 version of your work session in April, and little background on this. I'll start out with Tim Hubbard. He said that this zoning came about because people back in the day felt very strongly about this, all right? And I guess one of the points we may or may not differ on is whether people still really care about this issue today. And I've heard a lot of people saying, wow, man, it's a damn ugly building now. You know, it's, you know, it looks crappy, okay? Or, darn, if they only had a drive-in window, they'd still be in business. It was just that lack of a drive-in window that sunk them after 20 years, et cetera, which I think is kind of a contradiction. But back in the day, 1989, the Wading River Hamlet study, and I know a little bit about that one, it was very, very controversial, and it set the tone for a lot of our planning studies, and especially the one that we're involved in right now. And there was strong public sentiment from Wading River to maintain our rural community character. Back in 1989, a lot of folks were moving into Wading River. And there was concern, people say, oh, it's the last person in the neighborhood wants to be the last person in the neighborhood, right? But there was concern that what was going to happen in Wading River was going to be like what was happening in the communities to the west of us. We're going to be like overwhelmed, okay? That you can't tell one community from another. The only way you know you're going from point X to point Y is they have a sign that gives you the name of the community. You say, oh, Wantoa. Oh, now I get it, right? That's what I was looking for. So our involvement and the community's support for preserving our rural community character in 1989 was manifested in the comp plan of 2003, which was also very, very controversial. And then in 2012, we had the Wading River Corridor Study. And for those of you who don't sort of like follow the bouncing ball, one of the relevant things of the Wading River Corridor Study, one of the premises of some of us who urged the town to do it at the time, was that there was too much business CR zone land. And one of the outcomes of it is that there was a reduction to, I guess, what Jefferson Murphy is talking about, the 47 acres of potential business CR zone, the subject of the hearing today. Now, this business about rural community character, is it really still a relevant idea? I think it is. And I think the consultants who are doing the update of the master plan think it is also. They've talked about community character, community identity, and how it's going to be important to respect it. All right? Now, let's go back to this business about the drive-through window. There was and still is strong sentiment in Wading River that the community did not want the degree and intensity of commercial and retail development that was characteristic of many communities to the west of Wading River. There was also concern about how increased commercial and retail development would make it increasingly difficult to drive along Route 25A and would be problematic at places such as the intersection of Wading River Manor Road and 25. Drive-through windows are potent traffic generators and are prohibited under the zoning. Now, I had a discussion with someone in the planning department about this issue, and the counter argument is just because I'm going to refer to McDonald's. I have nothing against McDonald's, all right? I'll take a Big Mac anytime, all right? Fish fillet, not so sure about, okay? But Big Mac is okay. But the argument was just because they have a drive-through window, that doesn't mean that there's going to be extra people diverting off Route 25A, and screaming into that McDonald's and jamming up Wading River Manor Road. Well, I've read some studies, and I'm not a traffic expert. I'm not an expert on anything, really. But I've read some traffic studies, and what it indicates with drive-in windows, there are different kinds of traffic. There's the traffic that McDonald's used to capture, basically the community traffic and nearby traffic, all right? That wouldn't change very much. Now, as far as people who are just passing through the community, going east, going to the wineries, et cetera, that we'll call them the passerby traffic. Are 100% of them going to stop dead in their tracks, turn down Wading River Manor Road or wherever the entrance is and go to McDonald's? No, that's not going to happen. I realize that. But there's a significant percentage of them who will, all right? And usually the answer is a range of traffic. And when you think about it, why do businesses put in drive-through windows? I know there are many reasons, but I think trying to get more people to go there is a big motivator, maybe the number one motivator. Now, is the intersection of Wading River Manor Road and Route 25A a problem? No, if you live in San Francisco, but if you live in our area, it is a problem. And as Stephanie mentioned, in the current update of the Riverhead Comp Plan, it was one of those intersections that was identified as a problem intersection that had to be addressed. And you all remember the comp plan. It seems to have vanished for a while, but it's only halfway through. Did the another kind of like, I call this a shibboleth, is that McDonald's closed because it didn't have a drive-through window in 2020. Well, go out to Mattituck. They have a very, very nice McDonald's. No drive-in window. They're still in business, etc. Will allowing drive-through windows for restaurants, coffee shops, and cafes allow for others in the business CR zoning district, other drive-through windows? Most likely, it will. And I'm basing this upon discussion, informal discussion with people in town government. One person told me, they said, well, I couldn't see more than 3 tops. Well, to a lot of people, that's 3 too many. 3 is a little bit problematic. What about Route 25A? All right, because they wouldn't, if there are multiple drive-through windows, they all wouldn't be going on Wading River Manor Road. But what's 25A like? It's a 2-lane road, all right? You know, we talked about the Sound Avenue corridor, the problems of increasing traffic on a 2-lane road. That's what 25A is after you come off the William Floyd and head east. That's a problem. But I'm sure the New York State Department of Transportation is about to come to the rescue and just make everything flow, no matter how business increases. Well, no, that's not in the near-term picture, not at all. Now, what about McDonald's or the former McDonald's? Nothing against McDonald's. Is an eyesore. Well,
So
Not on a
there's-
public hearing.
There's no time limit on comments at the public hearing, but in light of the number of public hearings that we do have on tonight and the number of people who've come out to speak, I am going to ask that everybody be as succinct as possible. Put on the record what you want to put on the record with respect to each public hearing, but please do try to be succinct, understanding that there are other people here to speak as well.
Ma'am, I was speaking under the assumption that there is no 5-minute rule, okay? And
Nobody
so
said that there was a 5-minute rule.
I've been thinking about this for weeks, all right? And I'm going to finish it.
Please proceed.
Okay. If it's an eyesore, as my wife has stated, it's the responsibility of the owners of the property and et cetera to take care. If not, the town, and the town is taking action in this area. Does the former McDonald's have any specific site limitations? Well, you remember that rainstorm on Friday? All right. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the parts of the parking lot and parts of the Walgreens were flooded. This is a regularly occurring event. Another limitation of that particular property is the location of the existing building. I think Councilman Rothwell had pointed it out during that work session. It leaves something to be desired. Now, an important issue. What about people who are handicapped? Older people, senior citizens, such as myself? And what about them? Well, McDonald's and other fast food restaurants have developed innovations to serve all people without drive-through windows. Increasing establishments have provisions for contactless service, downloading of apps for ordering, and call ahead in advance and curbside services. Are there any other problems associated with drive-through windows? We've mentioned idling autos, and as Councilman Kearns pointed out, I think on that same work session, the litter problem, particularly when you get people from out of town who are just passing through and may not have the same regard for the environment that the locals do. The proposed changes in the BCR zoning code would have a detrimental impact on the Wading River's rural community character. We respectfully request that you reject the proposed changes to the business CR zoning use district. I'm sorry it took so long, ma'am.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Sid, before you leave, I just want to make one correction to the 47 acres. I'm sorry Jeff is not
Yes.
here. But the 47 acres that's owned by Zumas is actually zoned professional business, not business CR.
That's owned by what?
It's zoned professional business.
Who owns that?
The 47 acres that Zumas owns.
He doesn't own 47 acres. Oh, zone, he doesn't, it's,
The 47 acres. Where's
no,
that?
17.
He's saying zone.
Zone.
The
Jeff is not
parcel,
here.
the
Yes,
part,
he just showed it.
I won't argue this, sir.
No, I don't want to argue it either.
Yeah.
Jeff,
And we gotta move this meeting
Yeah.
up, because this is gonna,
Sid Wise coming up, New York State Department of Transportation is working on Edwards Avenue and 25 to design
Yes.
concept redevelopment, and then next year, 25A in North Wading River Manor Road
Yeah,
is on the
great.
agenda, so
That's good
there
news.
may be some solutions in the horizon.
And if we move with the lightning speed of DOT,
yeah.
yeah.
okay, so, can we have next?
I'm Cindy Clifford, and
Okay.
I don't live in Wading River. I also don't live in Jamesport or Aquabog or Baiting Hollow, but I appreciate those hamlets, the escape to a smaller scale, to a slower pace, in contrast to the bustle and the traffic of Route 58. And I feel we need to be protective of all of them. Regarding the zoning code revision for 25A, I would ask a town board to weigh whatever gains this would appear to provide against what we would lose forever. The revision would also go against the results of the Wading River Hamlet study, which was based on the opinions of local residents and clearly underscored their interest in balancing economic development with preservation of their rural heritage. Not only would permitting drive-through businesses attract all those fast food joints that will race to supply an untapped market, but it will open the door to more commercial development. Once you've signaled that you're willing to grant a variance on a long-held, community-valued zoning restriction, how do you say no to the next one? And the one after that? It's not hard to look down the road and imagine a completely different landscape, not just more cars and more businesses and more franchises and their all too familiar signs, but more traffic lights, wider roads, and then, well, Route 25A becomes a shorter replica of Route 58, or even worse, Route 25, farther west, and we all know how unpleasant that is. I'm only one person, but I know that I speak for a lot of others who either didn't know about the public hearing or couldn't be here or would never be able to stand up and speak publicly. And I know a lot of Wading River residents who have chosen to live there because specifically it is a charming little town with a charming little business district. And if it's a toss-up between satisfying a fast food chain or the residents of Wading River, I have to vote in favor of the residents, and I hope you'll consider that as well.
Great, great. Next.
Good evening, Talkie Turchin, Calverton. So the previous speakers were very eloquent and covered the topic quite well, and I certainly don't want to repeat what they've already brought to you. I would like to remind you of the letter that we've sent to the town board recently, the heads of civics from Wading River through to our eastern border and down into downtown, that we would like to see the preservation of Sound Avenue. And while you're deciding tonight on whether or not this particular change should occur for zoning, including the drive-throughs, please keep in mind that many of those people who are not here tonight, as the previous speaker just mentioned, would like to see the quaintness actually of Riverhead remain. And we certainly have it in Wading River, and it would be a shame to lose it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Juan Michelli Martinez, downtown Riverhead resident. I'm opposed to drive-through windows in Wading River and believe the town board should conduct another Hamlet study prior to proposing amendments, as this contradicts the opinion that was voiced by its residents in previous studies. Thank you.
My name is Nicholas DePiero. I'm from Wading River, and I hope I don't get stoned for my comments that I'm about to make. I do have a personal interest in the drive-in windows in any fast food restaurant. A couple of years ago, I asked my sister, who was handicapped, have you ever been to McDonald's? She said no. Why not? Because I can't get out of the car. I know handicapped has been mentioned by Sid Bale, okay? That is one of the reasons why I am for a drive-in window. I guess I have what they call a dog in this race. There's a lot to be said about an establishment that depends on servicing the public. If a business has a drive-up window, the business would be helping those who are unable to get out of their cars for a variety of reasons, and not those who are only interested in their own self-interests. For example, the pregnant woman who is on her way to or from work, she may want to stop in for a quick meal, but she doesn't want to get out of the car. A crippled senior citizen who can't hobble. If you're going to giggle in the background, come on up and speak. A crippled senior citizen who can't hobble into the restaurant to get a bite to eat, or actually the family who has a lot of kids in the car, and they don't want to get out of the car, they just want to get food. There is a civic association in Wading River that may be against a drive-up window, but actually, does a civic association represent the entire community? I believe the president of the civic association said that he has the pulse of the community in his hand. He does not. I've spoken to many people in Wading River. There are some who are for, there are some who are against, and there are some who really don't care. And those who really don't care, I would surmise that they would use the drive-in window. And again, those who are opposed to a drive-in window, please do not use it. You'll be lessening the traffic flow. I think if a poll was taken, I think that most would want a drive-up window. There's always the issue of traffic. That's always raised. Sometimes the issue of litter is also raised. If the issue of litter is also one of the criteria for not having a drive-in window, then close down King Cullen, because I see lots of beer bottles and other things that come from King Cullen on Wading River Manor Road, south of Route 25A. I have to admit that the intersection of Wading River Manor Road is a disaster, but that disaster started when all of the housing developments started south of Route 25A. There's a lot of traffic buildup, and there's a lot of traffic that stopped from Long Pond Road to Route 25A. A couple of years ago, I asked the previous town board, when they had a grant for sidewalks from Wading River School down to the duck ponds, asked for by the Wading River Civic Association. Well, that grant was approved, but they realized after the grant was approved that that was going to be a lot of property that was going to have to be condemned. So that grant was still in progress. I asked for a sidewalk to be built from Long Pond Road to Route 25A up to the post office to King Cullen. Guess what? The previous supervisor and the Civic Association didn't think that was a good idea, so they rejected it. Now the people have to walk on the road with a crowded Wading River Manor Road from Long Pond Road to the post office. That section does have to be improved. Wading River Manor Road and that section by the post office. There is a lot of improvements that have to be made, and one of the improvements, I'm sure you well know, is the drainage. I don't think the town is going to be responsible for that, but any new business that goes there will have to improve that drainage situation, and perhaps the town can also improve some of the drainage from Wading River Manor Road to help alleviate some of the flooding. It's also mentioned about the Mattituck McDonald's. They do have curbside pickup. If there was curbside pickup in Wading River, if there ever is a new facility that's there, the curbside pickup will only add to the cars running a little bit longer, and they're going to include more emissions in the atmosphere, which we do not want. I'm not going to speak for the 15 minutes that we, I guess, are allowed, because one of the speakers already spoke 15 minutes, but I'm going to wrap mine up. Someone sent me a little funny thing today. The fact that there's a highway to hell and only a stairway to heaven says a lot about the anticipated traffic situation that we're going to be facing. And there is going to be a lot of traffic, because this area, whether we realize it or not, and whether we have to admit it or not, is a very desirable area, and the traffic is always going to be here, whether we like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Jennifer.
Yeah, can we bring some people up, just to break it up?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, Supervisor and members of the Town Board. My name is Jen Hartnagel, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Group for the East End. For those of you not familiar, Group for the East End is an environmental nonprofit who serves the 5 East End towns, and we have represented the group conservation and planning interests since 1973. I'm speaking tonight to express our sincere opposition to the proposed changes to the VCR code that would allow the drive-through windows in Wading River. In reviewing the resolution, I don't see noted any purpose or reasoning for the proposed code changes. I know you won't be able to answer the following questions in this public hearing format, but I question the following. Has a planning analysis been completed that details the potential impacts of the changes?
Jen, you're breaking up a little bit. You're coming in and out. It's difficult to understand every word.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope this is better.
It is, and just, if you speak a little slow, I think we can understand you better.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Sure, I had the following questions as I was reviewing the proposed legislation. Has a planning analysis been completed that details the potential impacts? How many businesses could potentially be converted to the drive-through? What impacts could this have on traffic conditions? Has a traffic analysis been conducted? And again, what impacts could this have on the existing mom-and-pop eateries? The town is in the middle of a comprehensive plan update that ideally would examine the need, the purpose, the impacts of proposed code changes such as this one, and should incorporate community feedback. To pass this ahead of that process and without any clear idea of the overall impact is putting the cart before the horse in our view. Having participated in the Wading River Corridor study, I know firsthand that there is a very strong desire to see the character of Wading River preserved. This desire is documented through and through in the comp plan that's on the books and within the Wading River Corridor study. One of the possible development standards to help preserve community character and to cut down on the traffic issues is the prohibition to drive-through windows. And that's exactly what Riverhead did when they codified this as a standard in Wading River. So I'm not sure what spurred this proposal, but if it was because of that single vacancy in Wading River, that would undermine sound planning and zoning decisions within the town and really undermine the town's adopted studies. Please, please, we urge you on behalf of Group for the East End, do not support proposed zoning measures at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Anyone else on? Chip? That's it for now? Sure, come on up.
I think there's two people in line already, sir, if you
Yeah,
would
if you want to
just...
get behind them? Okay.
Hi, Ellen Hoyle, Riverhead. I have two subjects I
Ellen,
want
can
to...
you just bring the mic
Yep.
down a little bit so everybody
Ellen
can hear?
Hoyle, Riverhead. There are 2 points I want to make. One is, we just spent a couple of years working on the comprehensive plan that is about to be adopted, I hope. And it seems, there's a perception that this is being done in opposition to what the residents had already commented on for the comprehensive plan. Part of the problem is the saturation of the town with fast food restaurants. Within a 3-mile stretch of Route 58, there are no less than 10 fast food chain restaurants and/or coffee shops, most of which have drive-thrus. Now the board wants to increase the concentration on a single-lane road that has well-known traffic issues without any form of impact study or consideration. The second point I'm going to make is that the only person that, or group of people that seem in large support of this is the Long Island Builders PAC. It is an outside interest based in Hauppauge. On December 6, 2021, the town supervisor was forced to return $7,000 in return contributions from the Long Island Builders PAC. The pay-for-play mentality of Riverhead needs to stop. Thank you.
Okay, that is a statement that's well off, and they're trying to bring politics in here, but we're gonna stay, this is a public hearing to hear from the public, so where you're taking initiatives like that, misconstruing things, we're gonna move forward. This is a town board, you should be addressing the town board. This is your time to speak, to share your, where you stand and your opinions, and it's an open process. And we're gonna continue with that, instead of having people who ran for office, as the last person did, and try to disturb our public hearing for the public. And hi, Barbara, how are you? Can you come
Good
forward?
evening, Madam Supervisor, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barbara Blas. I live in Jamesport. I would like to follow up with what Jen Hartnagel was suggesting, and that is in observing that this code amendment affects more than 10 acres of property. That's a threshold for a type 1 action under seeker, which gives you the perfect opportunity to address each and every one of these concerns as you gather information under the seeker process as a type 1 action. You can get the information about the potential change in community character, in traffic, in all of those aspects that the community is concerned about as they anticipate what this change in the code might do to their community. That was all I'd like to say.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Understandably, thank you. Anyone else want to come forward?
Yeah, I want to make a quick statement in regards to what Ms. Hoyle said. You alluded to the fact that the board is in favor of putting drive-throughs in Wading River. Nothing could be further from the truth. When this first came up, this came up simply from Wading River residents that had contacted the Building and Planning Department and say, hey, look, years ago I was totally against this drive-through thing, but I'd rather have it now than have an abandoned building sitting there. And then a couple other people spoke up and reached out to members of the board and said, hey, we think it should have a drive-through, we think it should be opened up. So we, listening to the people of the town, put it up for a public hearing. It's a public hearing. It's not a decision that we've already made by far. My point was I wanted to hear from people in the community. That's what a public hearing's about. And I thank all of you who actually wrote, called, texted, emailed, chiseled it on slate, whatever it was. I've got plenty of information from the people that particularly live in the area of Wading River. I'm not saying if you live in Jamesport you shouldn't have a say about this, because you should. But the majority of the people I heard from were in Wading River, and the purpose of a public hearing is to hear what our residents want or don't want. And I will say that the majority of the people by far spoke out in favor of not having a drive-through window. And that's the purpose of a public hearing. Not because the board, as Ms. Hoyle would like you to think, came up here and we all wanted this and, oh, we all backed the Long Island Builders Institute or something like that. Couldn't be further from the truth as far as I'm concerned. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And again, we have 2 more public hearings, and this is to hear from you. Take politics out, misinformation, so it gets printed from people who ran for office and never got elected, or prior people who got voted out of office. Please, let's get the politics, let's keep this focus on the public hearing, by the public. We haven't decided which way we're going to go. We're here because of you. This is your open process, and we're all here to listen. There is no support here right now, so we want you to come forward, share your opinions, but attacks and constant, that's got to stop. It's not what government should be all about. Anyone else?
Good evening, Angela DeVito,
Good
South
evening.
Jamesport. I'm very glad to hear, Tim, that you are actively collecting all of this information. But part of what happens with our public hearings is that, for example, you have had several speakers this evening, and the sort of for and against is 5 against, 2 for, the proposed change in the code. And we as the public, as a result of public hearings, never know how you weigh that information. For example, you've alluded to that you've gotten emails, phone calls, perhaps some personal contacts. We don't know that as part of the permanent record of the public hearing. So I would ask that all that you've received with the emails, that all be submitted as part of the record for the public hearing, as well as any other personal letters that someone may have just sent a letter to you, but perhaps not to Mr. Kern, Mr. Rothwell, or Ms. Aguiar. Okay, those all become part of the public record so that we know how things get weighed. For example, how do you use the information that is shared with you from the public with regard to a change that you are, or a resolution that you are proposing? That's the one thing that for my 23 years as a resident here in the town and attending many public hearings has always been missing. We have the opportunity to voice our opinion. We have the opportunity to listen to others voice their opinion, but we never know how any particular board, not just you sitting here today, but any board weighs that information. And how does the final decision? I don't know if any of you have ever participated in federal hearings where they ask for, where they're doing rule changes and they collect public comments. They actually report back on the number of public comments and what the public, each of those public comments as groups, as aggregate data, reported on and specified what they were for, what they were against, what they need changed, all of those things there. And that is what influences the proposed rule that then comes back out. We don't have that. And the thing is that perhaps it's time for us in the process of all of this to begin doing that. Because with all due respect, sir, what you've just said could just all be hearsay. It's not part of the public record. So I would recommend, and I would encourage you to submit all of that, please, to the public record.
I would if it was possible, Angela, but in a real world, I bumped into you in the supermarket and we've had discussions. I'm going to document that and bring that to a board meeting, I think
Well, the
not.
thing is that,
I'm
no.
out and about in this
No,
town
no.
all the time.
Okay.
I see people, I hear from people. That's where I get the majority of my information from.
But the thing is that there is no way to weigh that.
There
There
is
is no way that
to weigh
the public can do that.
I can weigh it because I can reflect it that it's my constituents telling me what they want. They
Well-
put me here to work for them.
But in all honesty, Tim, you're put there to work for all of us. Certain
Absol-
people voted for you, but you work for all of us. Now, you've stated that several people from the Wading River area got in touch with you. Is that a sufficient threshold to make a decision pro or against the
That was
proposed
to
rule?
put it up for a public hearing. There was no decision based on this, Angela.
I'm not saying that you made it. I'm just
That's
saying
given people the right
that
to come talk
you
like
use-
they are tonight.
But
That's
you
how the process
have
works.
just stated that you get basically anecdotal, chit-chat. I meet you, hi, how are you doing?
Happens on a
It's all
daily
it is,
basis.
and that's what influences your opinion, rather than what comes out in a public hearing. Perhaps then the suggestion is the next time you and I meet, and I say, Tim, we need to talk about this, you say to me, Angela, come to town hall so that it's on the public record.
That's not
And I
going to
can hear
happen,
that.
Angela, because I'm a people person. I live in this town. I grew up in this town, and I will talk to anybody, anywhere.
You can
and
talk to
listen what
anybody.
they have
You
to
can
say.
talk to
So
anybody, but
you
using
take that
it
and you do whatever
using
you
it
want
in your
with it.
work is wrong. Thank you.
I'd like to have the freedom as an elected official to speak to my constituents. Privately, publicly, if not all of them want their name forward. Some people may say, listen, I'm your neighbor, I don't want to get politically involved, but this is how I feel, and I like to have that privacy. I think all of us elected officials up here would like that. So we're gonna move on forward.
I think we have another speaker.
Hi.
Microphone.
Yep.
Can you hear
Name
me
and
now?
hamlet, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Steinberg. I am one of the 6 owners.
Bob, you want to speak into the mic. Speak to the board, not to the audience.
My name is Bob Steinberg. I'm one of the 6 owners of the vacant McDonald's in Wading River. Yeah, well, I wouldn't characterize the building as abandoned. The building is vacant. We deal with vacancies all the time. We maintain the building as best we can. We pay $40,000 a year in taxes on the building. We are current with all our expenses. We pay our gardeners. We take pride in our properties. We want to be part of the community. And we think that we provide an important service to the community. One of the first things that I learned when I went into business is that where you stand depends on where you sit. And I understand where you people are coming from. This is a beautiful hamlet, and we want to preserve it as well. But this is in the crosshairs of the commercial part of Wading River. Your beautiful historic district is about a half a mile to the north of here. That's where you should focus. We specialize in convenience retail. This is a site for convenience retail. The world has changed. People are much more concerned in the present generation with convenience than they ever were previously. That's what people want. People want a drive-through. And I would feel that any community should provide the services that the people in the community want. You described more eloquent than me all the uses or the people that could really use something like this. Mothers with several children in their cars, disabled, or anybody else who wants to use a drive-through in there. They've been very successful. I got a call from McDonald's during COVID, and they were so apologetic, but they were going to close the store because it was underperforming, and they were closing all of their stores without a drive-through. So that is why they closed the store. Mattituck is a different market. Why? Perhaps it has a higher traffic count.
We're going to direct the comments to the board.
Okay.
And there's
Perhaps
not gonna be-
Mattituck has a higher traffic count there.
Just-
Perhaps it's a larger
There's not going to
market.
be back and forth with the
Okay.
public. If the public has additional comments, they can come up.
And yes, the area is congested, but Long Island is congested. When I when I was a boy, there was one car at every house. Now there are 3 cars or 4 cars at every house. Truly, there's more traffic on the road, but people have voted for that. They want to drive an SUV. They want a drive-through. They want convenience in their lives. They want these services. This is what I believe a majority of the people want. I think it's unfair to start with us. People choose a drive-through. We also have to pay $40,000 a year in taxes. This is the highest taxed property of this type that we have in Suffolk County. We have a number of them. And we need an increased sales volume to be able to justify our tenant paying the taxes. And that's a real estate owner's perspective on this situation.
Ma'am, all right, we're not
You've
debating.
You've
got to speak with us, but...
Okay, I'm not here to debate.
Yeah,
All right, and my
exactly.
comments are succinct. So I am essentially done. If you want me to answer
Okay.
anything, thank you all very
Great,
much. I wish you all well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Laura Jen Smith from Laurel. I just would like to make one comment for the gentleman. It's not the town's responsibility to make a business profitable. You know, they came in there, they knew there was no drive-through, there was no zoning in the drive-through when they purchased the property there. Whether there should be drive-throughs in the town of Wading River, I think, you know, can be up for discussion, but it should be in discussion in the comprehensive plan, because we have plans and, you know, based on what we're doing downtown is based on the previous studies of how we move forward on that. And the same should hold true for Wading River with our zoning there. We have the 2003 comprehensive plan, we have the Wading River Hamlet study, and both of those did not call for increase in for drive-throughs. So, and we do know that it has a lot of impact. It's going to affect a lot of things, and all of that should be addressed within the comprehensive plan. So I would ask the board to remove this after this public hearing, to not move forward with this legislation and reconsider that and putting it into a question that is addressed through the comprehensive plan. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Hi, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Notaro,
Uh-huh.
and I just want to make a comment. I love McDonald's, and there's nothing like it to drive up to the drive-in window and just get a cup of coffee after you've been into therapy with a pain in your neck, or you're not dressed properly, or it's early in the morning or late at night. I think it's a fantastic place, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? We have one person online, via Zoom. Great. Bring them forward, Chip, please. Okay.
Hey, Robert, you're on?
Oh, boy. Okay, Robert, you might want to move a little bit away from your mic.
Closer.
Well, actually, closer to the mic. No, sometimes when he's too close, it's muffled, isn't it?
Robert, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, great.
Barely.
Okay,
And speak a little slow, Robert, because you're coming in a little muffled.
okay, great.
Great. Let's see.
I'm a Wading River resident for 24 years. And I am in favor of the drive-through at this location. And I think Councilman Hubbard's correct. Much rather see a non-vacant building with a drive-through than something that is a vacant building. So I think it's spot on. I think there are a lot of my neighbors that are saying the exact same thing.
Can you speak more directly into your microphone?
Can you hear me better now?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure how much you heard, but I'm a 24-year resident of Wading River. I'm in favor of the drive-through at this location. As Councilman Hubbard has said, just based upon my discussions with my neighbors, They would much rather see a drive-through at this location than an empty vacant building. Not having a drive-through significantly reduces the potential for tenants at that location.
Potential for what, Robert? I didn't hear that last word.
Potential for future tenants at that location.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone else? No one
just-
online?
I'll just do
I think Jeff wanted to speak on it.
on this one, go ahead.
Just for clarification on a couple of points. One, the question was asked about the Zumas property, and I clarified, asked if it included the CVS. CVS to the east is the eastern boundary of the business CR. That is in. The Zumas property is the property immediately to the east of that. That is not. The second thing is that this is a type 1 action as we're affecting a zoning change of more than 25 acres. As I stated, this is for approximately 47 acres, so it's a type 1 action. And we're still conducting our secret analysis at this time. And lastly, I have no stake in McDonald's. I've never had a Big Mac in my life.
Yeah, right.
I'm just going to add, Supervisor, as many know, I am a resident of Wading River, live in Wading River. It is difficult to see, a vacant building there and the property not maintained as well as it could. Well, recently, they just did some trimmings and cut the grass, so it's appreciated, but obviously, we'd like to see a tenant in there. When you have a comprehensive plan that's very currently what we're looking at, that is very old, I think it's a good idea to have a public hearing. It's good to ask for current input and how the public feels. And so that's something in which was our effort to gain tonight, was and so we appreciate everyone that has come forward that spoke about it. As many may know, I have a business just 100 yards or so to the west of it, and I have the same concerns about traffic patterns and so forth. And so there are positives and negatives. I think the current property that everyone seems to be focusing on is the McDonald's property, and it's something that, if ever to move forward, there certainly needs to be a drastic overhaul in terms of the water mitigation as well, and, towards whether or not there is even the availability on that particular property to set up a queue for a drive-through, if the way the property is laid out. But that would be for a developer to decide. So I appreciate everyone speaking today, and as I will certainly comment on what Mr. Hubbard said after living in Wading River, going to King Cullen on a daily basis and being at Phil's, everyone has tapped me on the shoulder and asked about the drive-throughs. And that's one way, and it's a great way of communication. So it might be on the less formal side, but it's greatly appreciated, and I thank you. And thank everyone for speaking today.
Yes. All right, so, we have one more? Yes.
Nicholas DePiero again. I have one more final comment.
Okay.
Any code or any document that is in Riverhead Town should be a living document that can be changed. Otherwise, zoning as it existed back in 1950 would not have been changed, and Wading River would still be the quiet community that it was when I grew up in Wading River back in the 50s. I wish I could go back there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to now close the public portion of this meeting. We're going to leave it open for written comments until 4:30 p.m. on July 1st, 2020, at the town clerk's office. And we're going to move forward on to our next public hearing, which was scheduled for 6:10. It is now 7:38. And we're going to open up for public hearing for consideration of a local law to amend Chapter 301 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning and Land Development, Firearms Business Uses. And for this, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Howard, our town attorney. And I just want to make a note that no one on this board created this resolution. I know there was some speculation, who was it? It was not any member of this board that put forward. And we're here for a public hearing, and again, we want to hear from you, and this is we'll hear from the town attorney in this regard. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So this addition to the code is intended to define firearm business uses and set forth the zoning use districts that certain firearm business uses will be permitted in. The firearm business use for retail and gunsmith is business center and shopping center under this iteration of the code, and there's a separate definition for firing ranges, which will be in commercial residential campus, PIP, industrial B and C. The proposed legislation establishes buffers from residential uses, school uses, library, college, university, and religious institution uses. And it creates a special permit process to the town board for the establishment of a business, firearm business use. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to
Okay,
answer.
I think,
Yeah, I'd like to speak first before we begin. I always like to say that I'd always vote for a public hearing on basically any topic. That's part of our open government, is to listen to our constituents. So when something is put before you and you're asked, well, should we have a public hearing on this matter, I generally will always support it. I don't want to mislead anybody in terms of how my thoughts are for tonight, and I just wanted to be a little bit more clear. I'm not sure where this legislation quite came from. We had a work session, and we were specifically concerned, or was brought to our attention, was about the town square and whether or not there would be a firearms deal in place or close proximity to the town square. And when looking at this legislation, it was written that it's encompassing the entire town. And so I will tell you that how I feel in advance. Part of the key points in this could have simply have been, well, do we want to have something 250 feet from a town square? And maybe that would have been one topic of discussion here. But being that it's gone to the whole town, I have concerns that I'm going to point out, and this way we might eliminate some of the other redundant comments, but it separates gun retail stores from firing ranges, and I have a major problem with safety within that factor. So when you look at how this legislation is written, it says you suggest a retail store to be zoned BC for the business center and SC for shopping center. But then you suggest that firing ranges have to be in the commercial district or the planned industrial park, industrial C or industrial B. So no matter how you put it going forward, you're separating two entities. I would like to know that myself, if I got a license, I was going to purchase a firearm, that I could go into a retail shop and I could be explained the proper usage of that firearms, that I could explain how the safety mechanism works, and I quite frankly would like to be able to step into an adjacent area in which I can then properly work and learn how to handle the firearm and fire the firearm. And maybe I would realize that then. Maybe this particular firearm is not for me. Maybe it has too much power, and perhaps we go back into the retail shop and we look at something different. I think that's a major, major safety component, is it having the two of them together. And so I won't support legislation that's going to separate both of them. I would like, to get lessons on the firearm right then and there, and where the safety is on it, and how to properly load it, how to discharge the weapon, and how to put it back in a safety box, and how to properly exit from the facility after a purchase. So that's a major concern. When we look at the zoning, we have Bates and Barrels, which is zoned in the PC, Peconic River community, I believe. And we have the Peconic Sportsman Club that's zoned OSC, which is like open space conservation areas. These are two iconic, top-notch run facilities in the town of Riverhead, and both of them do everything in an incredible safe manner, and I feel great confidence by both of them. To think that this legislation, and I understand they'd be grandfathered in, but this legislation is actually saying that, no, they're not properly zoned, and we don't think that they're in the right zoning district, I disagree with, because I think they're actually top-notch examples of how facilities can work, and safety is their utmost importance, and I do have attended both of those facilities as well. I think that overall that we should leave gun regulations zoning up to the federal government for legislation. I don't think it should be done here on a town level. I think part of this is an emotional thing that has happened on a nationwide level, and I think that there is absolutely a place to address and discuss, but I think it comes down to mental health, and I think that should be what's in our priority right now. And with mental health, let's team up with Northwell Health, and let's look at other avenues to make sure that that is always available for people with mental health. And so that's just my feelings, and I just wanted to put that out there, and I'm just one member, but I agreed to a public hearing because I want to hear from everybody, and it's never that a decision is finite. I'd like to listen to everybody, but I just don't want people to feel that this was brought forth. I don't know that any member of this board put this, hearing together, but we're here to listen.
So if I could just clear that up quickly. So this matter was brought on to a work session as an agenda item, whereat it was explained that we had been discussing this code with Dawn Thomas from the CDA, and we decided that in furtherance of preserving, the tourist-type retail uses that we want down in downtown to attract, family-friendly walking traffic, that we wanted to put something into our code to define what a firearm use is and regulate, where exactly that would go. When we came to the work session, a lot of the general ideas with the buffers and the special permit process was, I did explain that part of it. The only thing that was outstanding were the zoning use districts. So the zoning use districts that are set forth in here are reflective of discussions between myself, Dawn Thomas, and the planning department. If they aren't, fully formed, or if they could be revised, we're certainly open to that. This is just what we came up with as a first shot at it. First attempt.
All right, so now we're gonna move forward, and again, yep, hold on, we're gonna move forward from him. Okay, so you're done, right?
Yes, thank
Yep. So again, everybody's entitled to their opinions, and we're here to hear for the public. Please ensure that you address the board instead of going back and forth, making accusations, as I personally heard in the last one, people making false accusations and claiming things. Let's stay away from that. This is for the people, and we're here, and please refrain from attacking and again, making misstatements or disstatements. And so we'll be here all night. We're here to listen to the public. And what do we have here, sir?
And Supervisor, just before we start, just some things that I observed from the last public hearing were, as we noted before, this isn't debate back and forth between those at the podium and those in the audience, and that's for a reason. The reason is that this is a public hearing and we're creating a record. If you're making comments from the audience, we don't know who's making those comments. The record's not going to reflect those comments, and then the record's going to reflect the speaker saying basically something that may not be intelligible in the context of the record. So please, if you're at the podium, you direct your comments to the board. There's no debate with members of the audience. And also, members of the audience, when someone is at the podium speaking, please be respectful. You don't have to be, you should be silent. There shouldn't be laughing, there shouldn't be comments, and there shouldn't be sort of calls from the audience for or against whatever the speaker is saying, all right?
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Town Board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is John Moran. I'm on the Board of Directors of Mill Pond Commons. I've been asked by my fellow board members to speak on their behalf and the 200-plus residents of Mill Pond. We are directly across the street on Elton from this proposed facility, and many of us are concerned. 70% do not have taken a poll and have said they are vehemently opposed to this business going in there. I would say, and I appeared at the last hearing on this, there has not been, at that point, a traffic impact study done on Eldon Street with regards to this business. And
Okay, so that particular application is brought before the planning.
it was, yeah.
Right, so they have, again, that's an independent body that's going to look at the code. They have open meetings, and, there's a whole process there. So, Eric, this is directly addressing firearm sales, correct?
So this legislation defines what firearm business uses are. So that includes gunsmiths, retail firearm business uses, and firing ranges. And they're all separated into under this legislation, into three different uses. So so under this code in the CRC, retail would not be permitted in a firing range use.
So if I'm understanding you, Counselor, the zoning prohibits the sale of firearms at this facility currently?
Well, the current zoning for CRC allows indoor recreational uses, and there is a separate provision of our code that calls a shooting range an indoor recreational use. So right now, our planning department's conclusion was that it was permitted in the CRC, and so that was carried over to this proposed legislation.
So this open hearing, this public hearing is prior to consent being given to the owner to begin working in this facility?
As I understand it, and I don't represent the planning board, but there was an application by someone in the 680 Elton Avenue building, and that application was withdrawn or needs to be amended. So right now, my understanding is there's nothing complete before the building, the planning board to consider as a site plan application.
So my first concern then is, and you can't believe what you read in the press, but there was a burglary at this location where some firearms were stolen. So my question is, if this is a public hearing on even the proposal of opening this business there, how are there already firearms in the facility, if that in fact is true?
I don't know the details of the police investigation. I know essentially what the public knows.
You know, Chief Hagemiller is here this evening. Maybe he can comment on the specifics. If there were firearms there, how did that happen?
Okay, so whether or not there were firearms there or anything, that's not really the focus of the public hearing.
Okay.
The public hearing is as to whether that should be an allowed use in that particular zoning use district. So, you know, that's what your comments should generally relate to.
Okay. So many years ago, I was involved in the planning and building of the police firearms facility in West Hampton. And at that time, there were very strict EPA guidelines with regards to the emissions of the gases and lead particles that are in the air when a firearm is discharged. I'm sure that in the 30 years since I was involved in this, that those standards have just been strengthened. And you know, I'm wondering if, and again, I said, is this a place, is this an area where we want to raise our children or grandchildren 100 feet away from this vent and trust that what particles are being discharged into the air are safe and healthy to breathe? We are responsible for $300,000 worth of tax dollars that are paid annually from Mill Pond. These are our homes, and this is directly across the street. There are 27 bus stops between East Main Street and Elton and where Elton ends. This is where our children play. This is where our grandchildren play. This is not the place for this facility, and I cannot imagine that in all of Riverhead there isn't a more rural location where we can accommodate this gentleman. Many of you have campaigned in our community, knocked door to door. I recognize you. I've welcomed you in. These are our homes, and it's right across the street. And it shows lack of planning, in my opinion. And certainly we hope that you can find an alternative location for this facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, and Lynette, next.
Good evening. Kathy McGraw from Northville. I'd like to say that I applaud the town board for attempting to amend the zoning code regarding firearms business. It needs to be zoned for. It's the right thing to do, but I do have some serious reservations about how this process has evolved, as well as the final proposal that is the subject of the hearing tonight. I think the process has been rushed and not well thought out. I suspect a couple of motivations for this amendment at this time. First, the development of downtown Riverhead and the desire to keep guns out of downtown. I note there is a pending application for a retail gun store in downtown. Second, the pending application by Mr. Neosi to establish a firing range and an accessory use gun shop in the commercial residential campus district at 680 Elton. I am in complete agreement with the move to exclude gun shops and firing ranges from downtown zones DC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the Railroad Overlay District. What I don't understand at all is why this proposed code amendment allows a firing range in the commercial residential campus district, the CRC. The first iteration of the amendment wisely excluded firing ranges from the CRC district. Why then did you move back to allowing them in the version that is before us tonight? I just don't get it. If it was to accommodate Mr. Neosi and his pending application, it seems to me his blatant disregard for the law by using the premises to store guns and advertising the location as being open for business, even before his business had been approved, should have been more than enough to have convinced you not to change the decision to disallow firing ranges in the CRC district. But whatever the reason, I'm here to argue that firing ranges are not appropriate and should not be permitted in a CRC district. So let's take a look at how the planning department first came to entertain Mr. Neosi's application for a firing range. The current zoning code is silent as to firearms businesses. I am told that allowing a firing range at 680 Alton Street turned on the permitted use in the CRC district for indoor sports and recreation facilities. A firing range is considered to be an indoor sports and recreation facility. So when drafting the firearms zoning amendment, in order to avoid a piecemeal, fragmented approach to this important issue, I expect you all would have looked at all zoning districts under the current zoning code that permit indoor sports and/or recreational facilities. Now, in case you didn't do that, I have done it, and I'm very happy to share what I learned with you all. There are currently at least 13 districts that arguably permit or allow, by special permit, indoor sports and/or recreation facilities. So that means there are 13 zoning districts in which you could logically allow firing ranges in the new firearms amendment. I don't know how you did it, but you chose 4 of them. 4 of the 13, and they are, as Mr. Howard said, CRC, Industrial B&C, and Planned Industrial Park. I take issue only with the selection of CRC, particularly when there is another prime candidate among the 13, namely the Planned Recreational Park, PRP district at Calverton. This district is exclusively designed for recreation purposes and allows all kinds of sporting and recreational uses. A logical choice for a firing range, seems to me, particularly since the town code on town-owned recreational facilities defines a recreation facility, and it's a long definition. It includes courts, playing fields, courts, arenas, stadiums, bowling, dancing, ice skating, all kinds of things, and concludes by saying it shall include gymnasiums, health spas, shooting ranges, and several other things. So sounds like a shooting range is a perfect fit for the Planned Recreational Park zoning district. Yet that's not in the proposed firearms amendment. That is not one of the districts that would allow a shooting range. Now, if you look at the intent of the campus residential the commercial residential campus, if you go to the zoning code and look at what the intent of that zone is, it says to provide locations for offices and professional offices which offer essential legal, medical, accounting, real estate, travel, and other services to Riverhead residents, and to provide additional housing alternatives convenient to services and arterials. That sure doesn't sound to me like a firing range is consistent with the intent of that district. This district is designed, the CRC, as residential with offices and services that support Riverhead residents. I'd say the CRC district is much more akin to the Hamlet Center and Village Center districts. And yet in the proposed firearms zoning, you have not allowed firing ranges in those two districts, even though both, just like the CRC under the current code, allow for indoor recreation facilities. So why choose the CRC district for firing ranges? Is it because you have a pending application and a big empty building at Elton Street that you want to fill? That's hardly a rational reason for making the decision that you should have shooting ranges in the CRC zone. In closing, I urge you to step back, take a more global look at the current zoning scheme in this town and how the new firearms amendment should fit into that overall scheme. If you do so, I'm confident you'll conclude that the CRC district is not appropriate for a firing range and should be eliminated from section F2 of the amendment to the zoning code. Thank you for your time, and I trust your attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Next. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Adele Wallach, and I'm from Riverhead. I'm here to read a letter from one of my neighbors who was unable to attend. She says, this letter is in reference to the firearm zoning proposals for 680 Elton Street and another on East Main, where the former Colonial Furniture Store was located. We find it abhorrent that this board would even consider encouraging firearms businesses for sale of guns and ammunition on Main Street in Riverhead with a firing range at the Elton Street property. This is an abomination to the plan of making Riverhead a beautiful, safe destination. The original plan was to encourage tourism by building beautiful hotels and restaurants and soon a green space park to enjoy. In addition, by building the multitude of rental apartments, we believe the board was encouraging people of all ages to come live in this newly envisioned safe downtown Riverhead. We have been made aware of the following concerns that the board must handle before a decision can be made about letting firearm businesses come to our downtown, and here are a few. Number one is zoning. Where are these businesses lawfully permitted in the town of Riverhead? Main Street seems illogical for the aforementioned reasons. What are the restrictions concerning closeness to residential areas, businesses, places of worship, and schools? Guns are dangerous in the wrong hands, as many unfortunate mass shootings have happened in the USA. In addition, firing ranges are very noisy. What are the safety precautions the town will insist on? Time of operation. We heard you were considering a 9 p.m. curfew. Is this realistic, since we have theatergoers and pedestrians out on the streets? Will transactions be videotaped inside in case of theft? Outside surveillance will be necessary for public safety. Will the town insist the businesses provide these safety precautions? Will there be open carry to and from this site if there are parking issues? Will pedestrians feel safe alongside gun-carrying people, legal or not? How will business ensure that if they lose power and the video systems go down, there will be a backup system in place? Theft happens at all businesses from time to time. What thought has been given to the ages of customers? 18 to 21? Will there be guests permitted and who are underage? And how will the business regulate this? We are asking you, the town board, to put a moratorium on this issue now until you address these important questions. Then share this information by answering our questions at public hearings, so we, the voters, know your reasons for even considering allowing these kinds of businesses on Main Street and in the downtown. We personally do not feel a need for firearm sales in Riverhead's downtown. Guns in the wrong hands can bring violence and death. Crimes of all kinds use guns. Police would have additional duties to perform, and the community would need more police to do this. In addition, we acknowledge that shooting on a gun range is a form of recreation. If some townspeople of Riverhead feel this way, there are many open spaces for this. There is a gun range already in Riverhead. This property could be a possibility. There's lots of open space at EPCAL as well. How about unused farmland, which could be repurposed for a gun range, however, not in the downtown? In summation, we have lived in Riverhead for 55-plus years. We respect and enjoy this community. We feel safe most of the time because of our police, fire department, and other service people. Unless Riverhead changes drastically, we hope to remain here. We also wonder if you, the board members, remember you represent us. Keep this in mind if you're thinking about giving any new businesses any kind of free taxes to locate in Riverhead. By doing that, we, the town, lose money, and the taxes rise for the citizens you represent. We are civically minded citizens who vote. We appreciate you reading our letter. More importantly, we await the board's answers to these important questions. Respectfully, Harry and Carol and Dennis. Thank you. And I will reiterate one point that the other woman mentioned, is that how can anybody trust someone who breaks a trust by putting their guns into a place that they haven't even been given permission for? That, to me, says volumes about the person that we would be thinking of doing business with. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening again. My name is Charlotte Notaro. I hope everyone can hear me. I try to speak loud. I am fearful of a gun store being brought into Riverhead. I work for Suffolk Theater. Sometimes there's over 300 people a night attending shows there. And I fear for mass shootings. What are the qualifications of these people that have to buy the guns? Can they buy for a friend? And then what are the consequences? The reputation of Riverhead, to me, sometimes is questionable. I'm ashamed to say it, but I'm fearful at times because I know of a woman who is married to a policeman, and she just said to me today, I went to Riverhead, and I was fearful of getting out of the car because there was a man with long hair. I don't have anything against anybody with looks or stuff, but she said he had long hair, a beard, and he was waving his arms up in the air, and I was afraid to get out of the car. Who knows what these people will do? Robbery of the store, of a gun shop. And also, I know that this is something that's maybe not even to do with this, but when I was with my mother in Ridge, many years ago, there was a woman who was shot and killed because she had white gloves on, and it was wintertime, and she was hanging her laundry. Someone thought it was a deer and shot her and killed her. So, I mean, there's crazy things and crazy people, and you say, oh, they can tell the difference between a deer and a person, but some of these people, they act so fast on guns that they don't even think. It's a shame that we have to be fearful. Thank you very much for listening.
So I just want to clarify before we go on. This public hearing isn't about any specific applicant at any specific place. This is legislation that's designed to regulate where these business uses can be cited, and it's also designed to put forth standards for the operation of the business. So going to, I believe, the previous speaker's comments, there are provisions in the code that regulate business hours, age of customers, videotaping point of sale. Those things are included in this proposed legislation.
Okay, hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Smith. I live in Calverton.
Talking to the mic a little bit.
Yep, hello.
Great, thank you.
How's that?
Yeah.
My name is Daniel Smith. I live in Calverton.
Okay.
I came down here to try and wrap my head around where this code came from and to support a friend of mine I've known since high school who is in the process of opening a business on Main Street. He's been a member of the community. I've known him since high school here. He's been a contributor to the community. He's not someone who's going to be opening a business that would be unsafe. He's not going to be selling to people that are going to be walking down the street with a rifle or something. He's looking to open a safe and respectable business. He had everything in order. He was told that it would be okay to open this business in Riverhead, and then all this code starts coming out, and now his business is in jeopardy. And so he put a lot of investment into this, trying to do the right thing, and now he's looking at possibly losing his investment and having to start from scratch, which happens, but it seems like this came out of left field, and if the town had thoughts on this earlier, then maybe he should have been notified before had been investing into his business when he first got the okay from the town. And I agree that it would be a little off to have a gun shop right down the road from the aquarium or something, because it feels a little out of place for that area, but to say the whole Main Street area can't have anything, I mean, he's not having a storefront with machine guns out in front of it. He has a little site that's a little out of the way. Just because it's on Main Street, now he can't have a business, but he wasn't going to have something that was kind of detracting from the look of the town. And it's not like there's no main streets that have gun shops on them on Long Island. There are a few towns where there are gun shops right there on the main street. If you go to Smithtown, with a big long strip on 25A, there's a gun shop right there, and all of these businesses, restaurants, professional businesses, I think there's a church and a school not that far away. It hasn't seemed to have been a problem. I don't remember Edwards Sporting Goods, which was at the end of Main Street, being a big issue for the community. I haven't heard many people complaining much about Bates and Barrels, which has been there for years and has been running an operation that's been safe and respectable. And I don't hear any real opposition to Dick's Sporting Goods, which is considered a family-friendly business. And that's right there on Route 58, and they've been selling rifles since they opened. I agree that the town definitely needs to look into how things are zoned. If a shooting range is going to be near a residential area and the noise could be impacting the residents, obviously that's no good. Is there an impact of noise from the little shooting range container thing that Bates and Barrels has? Would that impact the town's decisions on what they would allow in certain areas? Some of the earlier speakers mentioned that there were zoning areas that made more sense for a shooting range. I kind of agree. Putting a shooting range, even if it's an indoor, enclosed thing that could be sound dampened and have air filtration, it still might be able to hear it. It seems kind of odd to have it right next to a residential area. I can understand the concern. But the way this legislation came out almost seemed like it was aimed at just a blanket ban on firearm businesses opening in the town, as if it was meant to deter anyone from opening a business. And that just didn't seem fair. It seemed like it was not balanced, that the legislation didn't really take into account what the interests of the communities were so much over just throwing every single regulation they could at any proposed gun business. And this community is a rural community. People here have grown up with shooting sports, people who were introduced to shooting when they were children. So to say that a gun shop isn't entirely family friendly doesn't fit in with the history and the character of the community. And no, you don't have little children running around the gun shop. I mean, I've never seen that before, and I don't think that would really be a concern. But to say that you don't want any youths to be exposed at a gun shop at all, like it's some kind of taboo thing, it just seems like what they call cancel culture, trying to eliminate this component of our history, our community. And this whole drive, guns are bad, and guns are something that's to be respected and to be controlled. You don't want every person running around with a rifle, but what we're looking at in the town here is, are we regulating things so that they're safe and positive for the community and what our community is? Or did somebody just kind of start throwing stuff out there because they didn't want guns around? And then we have people who are trying to open businesses, and maybe some of them have been causing trouble for the town, and I can understand why that's an issue, because I've been keeping up with this stuff. But other people who are respectable business owners, they're trying to work with the community, and they get shut out without any say. It doesn't seem like that's the way we want to do things. I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Karen Fredericks, and I reside in the Mill Ponds
Karen, can you just pull the
Sure.
mic down a little bit? There you go. Thank
Okay.
you.
My name is Karen Fredericks, and I reside over in the Mill Ponds condominiums. I know you don't want to bring up Mr. Niosi, but I wouldn't be up here fighting this because of his credibility right now of bringing unsecured weapons into a vacant.
Okay. So
I understand
We can
that.
talk about it as a use, right? Because that's what the
But you
legislation
we're looking
about,
to
but it's
change,
not-
we're
it's not a
looking to
specific
change the
application.
zoning on it. So if we allow that to happen, this is what we could potentially get in there. So it's, right now, the CRC, with the common theme, we have museums, schools, public office, museum, art galleries, culture, and that's my vision of Riverhead. I think of like Port Jefferson, where I enjoy to go. We have a community that's right across the street with tons of children. That's our retirement homes. That's where we purchase. We don't want that there, and especially with his credibility. It's not a good thing to do that. There's plenty of other areas to bring, he can go, and he can sell all his weapons and stuff. But I'm asking the board members, out of respect to the residents that make this town, to stick to the common theme and don't change the zoning, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Next. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Horn. I am from Sag Harbor, but I came for the cheap gas and stayed for the civic engagement. But the geography of it, I also mention that for two reasons. One of them is that I've noticed, just being a public policy person and watching developments of this nature so much over the years, as well as studying it, that there tends not to be anything new under the sun when it comes to local government, particularly on Long Island, in that typically legislation that is in one community or one municipality will tend to then be in other municipalities, either because someone's running for office or a concerned community member comes up, and it doesn't matter whether it's the restrictions on, say, leaf blowers or rental permits or some new zoning change or whatever it is. So much like a domino theory, I think that this piece of legislation is unique because this is one of those rare instances where it is something new that other municipalities, at least on the East End, generally do not have. They may have restrictions on retail or even types of retail, but they don't have anything, even in East Hampton, the land of no, or in the village of Sag Harbor, they don't have anything that specifically points out a certain category of business in order to be excluded, or included, but only under very rigorous requirements. And the second reason that I'm here is because I'm someone who does have a bit of an expertise on this field. I do, for more than 15 years, I have been a licensed firearms instructor. I have a number of experience with training with individuals, as well as talking to people about, such as sportsmen's organizations and others, about what New York State's requirements are in this area. Additionally, I'm also someone who has a licensed dealer, a New York State dealer in firearms license, as well as a New York State gunsmith license, as well as a New York State federal firearms license. I have the same levels of licenses and degrees of licenses as the individuals that either recently or currently have applications before the board. Now, just to point that out, that doesn't mean that I myself am a retail or wholesale firearms dealer. I'm not. And I belabor this point because so many times when you hear people talking about firearms, whether it's in the press or on TV, they say, oh, well,
the gun debate is so infused by lobbyists, and really the advocacy organizations are just backed by manufacturers, and it's just their reason for doing this because they want to sell more guns. Well, for me, I have those licenses, but I don't actually sell anything. I don't have any stock. If somebody burglarized my place in Sag Harbor, they would say, "Are you sure we're in the right spot? There's nothing on the wall, there's no merchandise." But because of our common sense gun laws that we have, oftentimes background checks are required for things like Ducks Unlimited, for organizations like the Boy Scouts. Since the SAFE Act 9 years ago, if two people who have pistol licenses issued by the state of New York, where they have above and beyond their mental health checked, where they have background checks done not only for the categories of prohibited persons under federal law, but also under New York state law. Do they have any restraining orders? It's the most exhaustive check over the course of 9 months in the case of our sheriffs out here, or 1.5 to 2 years in the case of the Suffolk County Police Department. So these are individuals that go above and beyond with their background checks. They're so credentialed, they're so licensed, yet still they need to go before a licensed dealer in order to get a background check just to transfer something to another licensed individual. Now, we can debate the wisdom of what that is, but my point is that I reference this to not only show the credentials in the area, but also as a dealer, I don't have any vested interest in selling anything. I have no stock. I don't need a gun shop for anything. I could order and own whatever I wanted anyway. Even the scary stuff that people say should be banned, but actually already is. And it's not in the town of Riverhead and has no plans to be. So there's no incentive there, but yet I think that there is still a reason to speak on these subjects in order to make sure that they are discussed with clarity and with reason. Because I was glad to hear from the town attorney that this hearing wasn't about any one particular applicant, because if it was, I would definitely be in the wrong place, because I don't have specific knowledge of what the status of that is. They sound like good ideas, but I can't speak on the efficacy of them, though on Facebook when I first saw in Riverhead Local that some of these businesses were coming into effect, yeah, I thought that's great. In general, I think they are. I was also glad to hear from the town attorney that this is a work in progress, more or less, because the original variation of this law that was put before the public on June 7th was, I think, poorly written. It was lacking in what might be called legal integrity from the policy folks in academia. It was also draconian. Now, I think with these changes that have come since then, it's merely just awful and onerous. And I'm glad to hear that there's an evolving state of mind and an open-mindedness on the part of the board with this. I would even, in some respects, call it infringement, to use the vernacular of our Second Amendment, but I'm not going to do that because even though the Supreme Court is very shortly going to dramatically liberalize the laws in New York State when it comes to the possession and ownership of firearms, so much so that the state believes it to be a foregone conclusion, maybe as soon as this Thursday, but probably within the next couple of weeks. And I think that many of these licensing officers, particularly in urban areas like New York City, they're going to feel much like the hillbilly county clerks that wouldn't issue the same-sex marriage licenses when the Supreme Court approved that. That kind of licensing is coming to the urban communities near them. With that being said, I think that this particular legislation is ill-conceived, but that doesn't mean that your hearts are in the wrong place. I don't think they are. I think they're in the right place, especially I know one of you reasonably well, another through Facebook, and the other three through reputation, and it's always been generally very good. So I don't think your heart's in the right place, much like it is for other people who generally tend to fall on the other side of these types of issues than myself. And even those individuals, I think their heart's in the right place. It's their mind that's somewhere else. And politicians in particular.
Who do you represent?
I'm sorry, I thought I made it clear. Myself.
We're not doing back and forth with
sorry.
members of the audience.
Yes, I'm here only on my own behalf, for the reasons I mentioned, because this is an issue that I feel strongly. I also, so anyway, addressing just the board. So anyway, I also understand that from elected officials, there is often a pressure, particularly of those that are of a more reasonable ideology. Often they're prone to perceive the pressure that comes from just doing something, And I have a feeling that if two lunatics didn't shoot up a school or a shopping center recently, this legislation wouldn't be before the board. Maybe it would be. But the point is that legislation that is done in those types of passionate circumstances, thrown together, although it's great as a jumping off point, and I applaud the board for doing that, it's something that needs to continue to be looked at, to be evaluated. And quickly the areas where I think that you should specifically draw your attention is one, by basically removing firearms businesses as an as-of-right use. That's problematic, as if there is something inherently wrong with the nature of the business itself. There isn't. This is not a peep show. This is not a brothel. This is not an opium den. If somebody even sees a picture of a firearm somewhere, it's not going to lead to an awkward conversation with Daddy, what's that? Because they've seen these things in movies, they've probably been to the shooting range with their parents, they may even have a hunting license of their own. I myself do not. So I think that it's unfortunate that it singles out a specific nature of the business, particularly one that is guaranteed by a constitutional amendment. You wouldn't think of doing this with a newsstand. Now, the founding
Folks,
fathers...
if you have conversations, please take them outside.
The founding fathers, true, couldn't envision the AR-15, but they also couldn't envision WRIV or a transmitter tower. And things like zoning can say, that's not appropriate in a residential area, and so forth. They can do that. It's totally fine. But you would not think to do this to a newsstand and said, well, you can't sell newspapers, or you can't necessarily have this radio station in this particular area because somebody broadcasting the headlines in the window, that's more likely to lead to an awkward conversation than a cartoon picture of a firearm. So I think that is something that is, I think, in general. And as for this additional specifics of the legislation, is that I think that it's problematic that firearm dealers and gunsmiths are divided into zones that are separate from the ranges, because New York is very, very unusual. Not only do we have registration of handguns, but you generally need a firearms license in order to even touch a handgun, let alone to use one. So there's no way to try before you buy. You're going into a gun store, buying it, and only then are you allowed to take training and classes and know how to use it. Having a range attached to a store, wherever it's located, whether people can rent things or they can try something out or bring a friend or go with a friend, there's more opportunities to do that. And I should point out, just to the credibility of this, I'm also a member of several of those august institutions that Councilman Rothwell mentioned, so I don't have a vested interest in needing to go shoot somewhere. I already have plenty of opportunities for that. Second, to have a gunsmith, even though that is not restricted as an accessory use at the firearms range, it still has to be away from the gun range under Section F in the zoning code. So if someone is going to the range and they have a problem, and they say, hey, I don't know why this is firing. I just had a hang fire. I just had the chamber felt like it exploded. Hey, talk to our gunsmith. You can't do that, because if there's not going to be a gunsmith on site, then they can't check it out with a real expert in how it works. Secondly, by allowing the young people who are under the age of 18 into the store, but not into the firing range or to a gun stop under this current code, that means Boy Scouts can't ever use a range for their merit badges. They have to use an outdoor range for that. They have to go to Calverton, a sand pit, with far less security than the controlled environment of an indoor range, which this zoning code would require and allow. Yet, they could just simply go outside and do that. Hours restrictions, I guess that would depend on the particular business, but if the business is going to bother someone, why allow it in the first place? And if it's not bothering someone, why bother restricting the hours? The last thing is, and this is how the law touches upon state law, and it's something that's very underrated. This particular piece of legislation comes extremely close to an area of law where the state preempts the field. And they occupy the field and they say, we are the ones who want to regulate this. In the first place, in New York State, you can operate a shotgun, even get a hunting license at age 12. You can operate a handgun between the ages of 14 and 20, as long as you have someone with you that has had a hunter safety certificate, has a hunting license, or is a licensed instructor. But under this law, you wouldn't be able to take them to a range, but you'd be able to take them to the store to buy the gun, but not take them to the range in order to show them how to use it. And with last respect to that, Section 400 of the penal law is also very, very specific and makes it very clear that the state is the one who makes these regulations. You can make zoning requirements, but things like security checks and some of the particular things that make it as a precondition for getting the license runs very close to running afoul of the state, especially when the state gives the sheriff's office in our case, or the PD in Western Suffolk's case, the exclusive right to decide whether or not somebody gets a license. And on top of that, with these new changes that have come down from Governor Hochul, there's now additional requirements, whether inspections and also conditions for the license, including regular inspections from the New York State Police. So with that being said, there's only one more thing to say about the state, and that's to address something that was asked to the board. Open carry is illegal in New York. So if there were parking issues, an ordinary mortal that's given a pistol license in the state of New York, it's a license to have and carry concealed without regard to place of employment or residence. So if you're walking from your car in front of the aquarium to wherever the downtown gun shop would be, you have to have it concealed, or you have to have it cased. Either way, it's a situation where no one knows about it, or it's a situation where you may know about it if you know what's in the case, but it's locked up and it can't hurt anybody. So with that being said, I appreciate the board's time, and I hope that they continue to look at this, and the individuals on the dais were sincere in wanting to hear more from the community. This was just to give a flavor of it, but it's only the tip of the iceberg, and I would be happy to talk with the board or send you to people even more knowledgeable than me on this subject. So thank you for your time. It's much appreciated, and I think overall you guys do very good work for the community. Thank you.
Sir, I didn't catch your name.
It's Ryan Horn, H-O-R-N.
And where are you from, sir?
I'm from Sag Harbor.
Thank
And that's where my licensed dealership was.
Okay, so moving on, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, can you speak into the mic so we can hear you? There you go, maybe adjust it? Okay.
How's that? Is that
Good,
better?
thank you.
Phil Barbado,
Hey,
Jamesport.
Phil.
First, I think that this is a good start on some local legislation that we do really need. So I applaud the legal department for getting this going. I think you've also gotten quite a bit of excellent comments tonight that need to be seriously considered before this is finalized. I think the community obviously has studied this and has given you some good input. I think we need to do more analysis as we're revising this. Something like, what if all of the possible sites for these gun shops and gun shooting ranges were used? How many would that be in the town of Riverhead? I think you have to look at the maximum possibility here, because if you write the regulations to allow it to happen, it might. It would be the gun capital of Long Island. So I think, please, take a look at what the maximum possibilities would be and where these places would be located. And in the meantime, while this tough work is being done, should we consider putting a halt to any new applications? Should there be a specific, very specific moratorium for either gun shops or shooting ranges or both? Otherwise, people are going to say, oh, they're going to change the regulations. Let's get in there and get our shop going. It would be, if you do it very specifically, a moratorium can work and it can be very effective. So I would highly recommend that. As far as the specifics in the wording of the current version, I think that the 150 feet and 1,000 feet, that's too short. We're talking about guns here, folks. We're talking about bullets. I would suggest something more like, if the proposed site is in a zone that is adjacent to a residential zone, it will not be permitted. So in other words, if your zone has a residential zone right next to it, I don't care how far away it is, you can't operate there, especially for the shooting ranges. So I would hope you would consider that at least. And I don't know where these numbers came from, 1,000 feet and 150 feet. As far as safety, emissions, lead and other gases and so forth, and noise, I really don't think they're long enough. So I hope you would reconsider those. Other than that, I applaud you for getting started on this. I think it's really needed, and I think the community is here to help you.
Thank you. Hi. Good evening.
Marilyn Banks Winter, and I'm from Riverhead. And I might have got a little stiff standing there waiting on my turn. But they talk about maximizing the area. I say minimize it. You can't talk about legislation and code without talking about current events. And we just had, here in Riverhead, 2 scares at the Riverhead High School, and I believe the middle school as well. I don't know about the gentleman in Sag Harbor, but, you know, I don't think that there's any gun dealers or gun stores, firearm stores there. But we don't need it here in Riverhead. I also wanted to tell you that Elton Avenue is not the place. We have residential areas. We have Hispanic and African Americans that live there. We have a church that's right there. And I don't know where the numbers came from, 1,000 feet and 150 feet. It sounded like the cannabis meeting that you recently had to determine the numbers there. So we need to look at it again and come up with a better plan. EPCAL has always been a place where activity and any type of, you know, activity like this should be, you know, if not at all. And also, I've sent a letter in regards to, you know, Mr., what is his name? He has an application here, Nyosi. Okay. And I read that every day in cities across America, lives are damaged and cut short by gun violence. Every evening, the local news reports how a young child, students in our school district, innocent bystanders, or law enforcement officers were injured, killed due to gunfire, or threatened. Murders and other violent crimes take an immense toll on our communities, as guns are used in hundreds of thousands of crimes each year, from incidents of domestic violence to armed robberies here in Riverhead. Often, the crime is committed by a dangerous person who cannot legally purchase or possess a firearm. However, comes into possession of one that has been purchased. Only rarely does anyone ask how these dangerous people are able to get guns they cannot legally buy. The answer is strikingly simple: bad apple gun dealers. Bad apple gun dealers are the small minority of federally licensed gun sellers that are the source of nearly all the guns used in crimes. According to reports from the Riverhead Local News and other legitimate legal sources, because I go out there and I read and I search, consider Anthony Nyosi, principal of the Nyosi Firearms Development LLC, is considered a bad apple gun dealer.
Ma'am, we're not talking about any one specific person.
I understand, but in order for us to talk about legislation and to come to a code, we have to talk about current events. And he violated a code for Riverhead for
Whether
having
you
that.
violated town code or not is completely separate. There's no guarantee that the next person that goes there is
We
going to
don't know
comply
if
with
it's
it or not
guaranteed or
comply
not.
with it.
That's
We're talking
that's
about
if,
the
what
use.
ifs. So,
We're not changing the zoning for
anyway-
it. Zoning currently
This-
allows for indoor recreational facilities.
Right, but his
Currently allowed in
application is
that,
still
in that
on the
zoning use
table.
district.
And he was the one that authored, now I take offense, because he authored a blog for several years in which
Ma'am,
he
Mr.
had
Niosi
views
is not
on,
the subject of the public
black
hearing,
people,
okay? He's not,
and
he's
he
not the
pitched a
subject of the public hearing.
fundraiser in effort for the Proud Boys, members' legal defense, after the man had been convicted of stabbing another man during a political confrontation. Now, he's against a lot of you, because some of you are Hispanic, some of you are Jewish, some of you, you know,
What does that
we
have
are
to do with
black.
zoning?
the
Please tell
zoning
me
is
what it has
that,
to do with
the
it.
zoning is that we shouldn't have any more firearms. We've saturated ourselves enough.
Okay.
So we shouldn't, the
Whether or
zoning.
not a gun store is involved or
You
not.
don't want me to finish.
No, I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish. I'm trying to keep this public hearing on track, and you're going
So we're
far
going
afield
on
from the
track
point of it.
by saying that for the zoning itself, we shouldn't change it. It should stay the same, but as far as 1,000 feet versus 150 feet to where we need to have it, or if we need to have it, it's still not enough. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Martin. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Larry Street. I represent I'm the president of Eastern Long Island branch of NAACP. I want to take it, and young man, the lawyer.
My name's Mr.
I'm
Howard.
going to deal with
Eric Howard.
Eric Howard.
Thank you.
Moral compass. Why are we so afraid to deal with our moral compasses? She brought up the fact about Mr. Niosi, okay, and how he praises his blog, okay? But we're afraid to deal with our moral compasses when it comes to things like this. Guns should not even be in Riverhead, period. It shouldn't even be here. It should not be up for discussion. How did it even get here? Is this, what kind of precedents are we trying to set for this town? We want gun shops now. Okay, we go to Riverhead, you can buy a gun, okay? And trust me, they're probably Proud Boys that live here that makes it even so convenient for them now to go to the store in Riverhead and buy a gun. They can go right there with it. The thing about it you're not dealing with, okay, the moral compass behind guns, okay, is it morally right? What are you trying to have rallies now in Riverhead? You have a lot of white boys that are being radically on social media.
Sir,
with
come on.
excuse me, I'm not saying. Please
Lower your voice here,
Please
okay?
let me
You
finish.
lower your voice. No,
Lower your
sir.
voice.
No, you're not in charge of this
No,
meeting.
I didn't say, but you
Okay,
have to listen to
lower
me.
your voice.
Okay, I will lower my
We
voice.
are
Keep it to the
professionals.
public hearing,
Yes,
Mr.
we are, but
Street.
you
It's a
know
public
what?
hearing
Again,
and stay
we're not
focused.
addressing the root of the problem. Why are we so afraid, okay, as human beings, to get to the root of the problem?
What is the
We
root of the
had-
zoning problem
we
that you're
had-
referring
what is
to?
the
Again,
problem?
again.
What is the
can I-
root of the
can-
zoning problem you're referring to?
You wanna talk?
I want you to stick your comments strictly to what we're here for on a public hearing.
So in other
We
words,
can-
you're telling me
we can debate
that- so in
guns
other words-
all night long.
so in
And
other
you
words-
can do
so in
that,
other
Mr.
words-
Straight, listen to me.
No, you're not
You
listening
can
to
do
me,
that
sir.
at the end of the meeting for general comments. There's nothing wrong with that. This is strictly on the public hearing for this zone change. You have not even mentioned that once in your conversation.
So,
If you want to converse at the end of the meeting, you're more than welcome to when it's open for public comments. This is
so
on
am I,
the
so
public
then I'm
hearing.
to understand then that it's already in place that we're gonna have, the firearms in Riverhead, the gun
Sir,
stores.
How did you take that out of what I just said? Don't put words in people's mouths.
Well, I'm
This
just
is
asking,
ridiculous.
I'm just
Come
asking,
on.
is this what I'm to?
I
I'm
want to
looking for
hear your
clarification.
comments,
That's all,
Larry. I
clarification.
care about your comments, but they're at the wrong time on the wrong topic.
So-
Talk to us during the open time at the end of the meeting about
So
that.
if I talk about the zoning and what this is all about, okay, is it gonna make a difference one way or the other?
The public hearing is going to make the difference. That's why we have public hearings. We need to hear from the people. On this particular topic, right now, it's on the zoning change for what we're talking about tonight. This is what this public hearing is. If you want to debate guns or anything else, or you want to talk about your concerns about guns in Riverhead, I'll listen to you all day long at the end of the meeting when that's appropriate.
Fine, I'm done.
Well, no, and just to clarify something, without this zoning change, then there are no regulations as to where firearm business uses go. There's nothing in the code.
Okay, can we have the
About-
next speaker? Do we have anybody online? Why don't we take some, because I'd probably... Okay, let's, hold, we need to run this meeting. We're gonna take a break. You wanna take a 10-minute break?
No.
How many people do you have, Chip?
We have 3 people.
Okay, so let's take a couple of them.
Charles, you're on.
Okay.
Lafani?
Hello, my name is Charles Sclafani. I'm a resident of Wading River. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Rothwell on his elegant speech on guns. As a gun owner, as a former law enforcement agent, as a former Marine, I find it extremely offensive what some of these last 2 speakers have said. Okay, but with pertaining to your code revision or possible revision today, Mr. Rothwell is 100% correct. There are underground shooting ranges that are attached to gun shops, as is Base and Barrel, as is on the outside. There is a state limit of, I should say, state law pertaining to the noise that can come out of them. They have to have a complete air filtration system, so we don't have to worry about all the gases and everything that are emitted from them. And if any of those people who are anti this code, what they should do is try spending a little time in a gun range, indoor gun range, when you have to have your muffled ears on, how fresh the air is in there as you're shooting. And anyone who's ever purchased a weapon definitely wants to try it out. I go and try different types of ammunition in my weapons. I go right there, see what I'm going to purchase. My son does it also, my wife does it also, my daughter does it also, and my 13, 16, and 17-year-old grandchildren do it also when we go in. So I applaud you for looking at the situation. There should never be a separation of a gun shop and a range because you need one with the other. It's like making a cake without an icing. It doesn't work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next. Okay, so who else do we have?
One more will be Ron Carreri.
Oh, okay.
That's the last. Mitchell, you're on?
Okay, we have an M, so I don't think that's him.
Mitchell Hagler.
Mitchell Hagler? Okay. Mitchell, would you unmute? I see you're muted. There we go.
Now he is.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you speak a little closer possibly to your mic and speak slowly so we can hear you?
Yep, hold on 1 minute.
Okay.
How is that, better?
It is somewhat, yes.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to applaud the attorney's office and the town board for taking on this issue. One thing that hasn't been mentioned up until now is, you know, most of the law that's out there comes either from statutory law or from case law. In researching what Riverhead is looking at right now, what you have before you is pretty much lifted word for word from the law that's been on the books zoning-wise in Newton, Massachusetts for about a year. I think it's a good starting point. I think there's still a lot to consider. What I would suggest is that the board hold this hearing open until further notice, return it back to the Code Revision Committee, and that the Code Revision Committee work with a group of people similar to the way the Cannabis Committee was developed. You know, let's get some experts in the health field. Happened to be scrolling around and found that our own Northwell Health Systems that we have here right in town has a specialty division on guns and their effect on health. So I think that we should be, you know, not just looking at what other towns have adopted, but, you know, let's look at what is in our own best interest. Let's talk to other experts and, you know, in health and safety and, you know, other people that, you know, want to have input on this as we're doing tonight. But meanwhile, keep it open and let's put a moratorium in place here on firearms businesses until we can get something on the books. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, anyone on Zoom? One more and then we'll go.
Yes.
Okay,
Ron Ferrari.
okay.
First of all, if you believe Eric Howard's insistent that this has nothing to do with the alleged white supremacist gun dealer, then perhaps you can buy a bridge from his father-in-law, Kim Hubbard, behind him. That's exactly what this is.
Mr. Harari, we are here at a public hearing. I will remove you from the room if you, okay, this is not an appropriate behavior. It's not accusatory.
He's going, don't worry about it. Don't
Okay,
even
we're
address him.
moving on.
He's not worth the waste of breath.
Okay, so we're gonna move on, so you're next.
Good evening, Board. My name is Joseph Oliver.
How you doing, Mr.
Is your mic on?
I'm literally speaking, I gotta get
It's
really
on.
close.
Yep, you have to get closer.
How you doing? My name is Joseph.
Bring the mic up to you. There you go, Joseph. Now commit a little bit to it. All right.
What are you, stage director here?
Okay, now you can go.
How you doing? My name is Joseph Oliver. I lived in this community for 33 years. I currently live in Riverhead, right by the Peconic Medical Center. I definitely have an invested interest in this zoning. I am the owner of JJ Armory. I do have a use permit pending for approval. Currently, right now, the current zoning says that the place that I chose to open up my business is currently zoned appropriately for retail. I'm asking you not to change any rules or any zoning. For the last 18 years, I've been a dedicated volunteer to the local EMS department. We've done multiple different drills. When it comes to gun safety or any type of violence or any type of MCIs, I've been a part of it. A couple of years ago, I worked very closely with the Riverhead Police Department, Chief Hagenmiller. We conducted a school shooting training at Riley Avenue School. Gun violence hits home for me. This is my community. I know when there's other speakers talking, people are asking, where do you live, where do you live? You're not from Riverhead? This is my town. I love this town. I don't want to go anywhere else. I started this process to secure the storefront that I'm trying to get. That's right off of Main Street back in January. I didn't put in a use permit right away due to the fact that I was told that it was zoned properly, so I didn't feel like there was a need for me to rush anything. I wanted to make sure everything was right. Currently, JJ Armory is open. In order for me to open, I had to get special permission, a special permit from the town to operate where I'm at now. I had to be inspected by the ATF. I had to be inspected by the Sheriff's Department. I also had to be inspected by zoning members. I'm not sure the exact terminology. Anyways, we've been compliant with everything, and we're going to continue being compliant. To put this change in effect, it would definitely mess me up pretty badly. I know a lot of people here don't believe in guns, and they think that there's a bad taboo, whatever it is. I can't even. I'm nervous right now, especially everything that's going on. But I know that in my house, my daughter, who's actually here in this meeting right now, she shoots a gun. My partner, my business partner, he just came back from a trip and he was shooting a gun with his little son. If you go to Calverton Range, there's many people there with their kids. There's new laws. There's another speaker here who's sitting in the front row, who's worried about walking down the street. She works at the theater. She's worried that somebody's going to be having a gun on them. I can tell you that I'm licensed to carry concealed in the state of New York, with the exception of New York City, because they have their own rules. And never once would I ever consider pulling my gun out. Another question that was asked, I just want to just address, can you buy a gun for somebody else? No, you can't. It's a straw purchase. There's so many different laws that are in place. Nothing is perfect. These terrible monsters that, commit these crimes, they need to be dealt with, but it's not everybody. I know for a fact that I would never, ever even consider shooting an innocent person. Never would even cross my mind. I'm not going to go long and drawn out, just like it's been so far. But I just want to say that please don't make the change. Please let me try to model off of Bates and Barrels. I'm a frequent customer from them. It's a great place. This is my town. I want to open my business here. I don't want to look for somewhere else. It's already hard enough to try to find a location right now. Route 58, if this change goes through, is a place that you can open up a gun store. But it's also Route 58 meets up with Riverhead High School. Not to mention, there's 3 storefronts that are open right now by Dunkin' Donuts. The rent there is $10,500 a month. I can't afford that. I'm doing everything solely myself. I don't have outside investors. I'm just asking the town not to change anything, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment, sir. Next.
John McAuliffe, Rolling Woods. I want to start out by talking about the actual proposed legislation. I think the one problematic part of it is the waiver part. It seems that the principles of distance, one can argue about whether it should be 150 feet or 250, or I think that could be argued about and perfected. But I think the premise that somehow these things can be waived on this kind of sensitive topic is not a good language within, although I understand bureaucratically, administratively, why you always want to have a exception. But I think it'd be better in this case not to have that kind of exception language. I want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about the larger issues that were brought up by Mr. Rothwell, that were brought up by the gentleman from Sag Harbor, who I don't know if he's working for the NRA or simply supports their viewpoint, or is working for Mr. Niosi or simply supports his interests. But he had there's a whole undertone in everything he was talking about, which is essentially to say that guns are just like anything else, and they're obviously not just like anything else. Mr. Rothwell talked about the emotional moment. Yes, there is an emotional moment, but if you think we can say that therefore should only be guided by federal regulation, when at the federal level it's a major victory, this compromise they're coming up with, and they're not even raising the age to own the modern version of a machine gun, much less going back to where we were 20 years ago to making it illegal. I mean, I think that we have to be concerned about what we can do with our own community. The fact that the 2 places have been cited are on Main Street. One is way to the west on West Main Street, and one is way to the east on Main Street. I don't think that provides a rationale for a gun shop within the center of the town. I mean, I feel badly for the person who has put his investment, his ideas, and there's nothing wrong with what he's trying to do, but I think it's just not the moment in history in which we want to have a gun shop in the middle of what we're trying to create downtown Riverhead to be. So I think that I don't know, there was a sort of funny language about where did this, I didn't know that legislation could sort of appear from the sky and drop onto our agenda, but whoever created it, I think, was trying to deal with the objective problem that had been created by Mr. Neosi, and you're having to deal with a problem that started out in a rather weird zoning interpretation about what recreational meant, and I think we heard at the beginning from Kathy exactly what that language says and really how inappropriate it is to consider a gun range to fit within recreation. That's not what that language is for. And so in a sense, it is coming back to you and the authority of the town board to make sure that those provisions are honored. And again, I feel very badly for the person who's made the personal investment, but I think he was misguided by somebody in town to think that this was an appropriate place for him to do it. And it's ultimately going to come down to the board to resolve in this moment of American history exactly what kind of facilities you want to have within not just the downtown Main Street, but in this 1 mile, I don't know, half mile, 1 mile that includes the proposed shooting range. I mean, I think you are ultimately, in terms of the legislation you write, you're going to have to deal with these realities, not just the local choices, but the situation in which the country finds itself right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Welcome back.
Thank you. I applaud the town board, town attorney, for considering further definition of this land use, but I am opposed to the language as proposed and suggest the following modifications. Section F2, remove the commercial residential campus, CRC, the industrial B, and industrial C zones from the proposed language. This use should be restricted to the planned industrial park area. Section F3, change 150 feet to 1,000 feet from the property line. Section F4, change to 1 mile from any private or public K through 12 school. Section F5, include government offices, medical facilities, places of mass gathering, group homes, or facilities servicing victims of domestic violence. Section F6, remove the opportunity for the town board special permits and subsequent removal of sections F9 and H. Section F13, hours of operation should be during regular business hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Section F18, change age of access from 18 to 21 years unless active duty military. And Section F19, security cameras should have off-site and/or cloud backup. Additionally, the town board should consider further defining recreation, as there are clear differences from family versus adult or age-restricted recreation. The language in laws governing family and age-restricted recreation should be considered separately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone online? No, okay. Anyone else want to come forward? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Christ of Riverhead, and I apologize in advance that I am not nearly as well versed on zoning issues as some of my fellow townspeople. I'm very impressed with a lot of what I've heard. It makes me want to go and read a little more about the zoning. But I just wanted to say that as a resident of downtown Riverhead, I strongly support any changes to the zoning code that would restrict the location of firearms businesses. The downtown seems to be once again on the verge of a renaissance. I've lived here for many years and I've been waiting for that renaissance. Now is a great time to ensure that this part of town moves in a positive direction. It's said that there's a time and place for everything. It seems to me that this is the right time in the nation's history, and downtown is the right place to restrict the placement of gun businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Bill Fitz. I live in Wading River. I'm here to support what you're doing but you guys got to have the history, and I don't think nobody here does. Riverhead High School has a rifle range in the basement.
A lot of schools did throughout.
My two daughters shot with the ROTC team in Riverhead High School. I'm an instructor. I've been an instructor for over 40 years. I teach children. They love it. We go to the Calverton Range. I got a grandson and a granddaughter now that both shoot. I understand his areas. Somebody mentioned EPCAL. There's a police range, unless they tore it down, still on EPCAL, and a trap range used to be where the incubator is. I was the instructor at the Grumman's Rod and Gun Club. So selling guns and being able to try them, I would love that. I've been licensed for a long time. Main Street, where it is, I don't see a problem with it because it's not a full-out blown showroom. Where if you go to Smithtown Sportsman's Club, right on 25, big-ass glass windows. Northport has one in the back of the hardware store that's been there for years. I just want to say, you guys with these ranges have no idea what you're talking about. And the other thing too is, I'm one of the hometown heroes. I only found out my picture's up on one of those flags by East Main. But thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Ma'am, if you want to ask,
Hold on.
ma'am,
We're going forward.
but
No, not
ask him,
going
ask
back.
him in the hallway, please.
Yeah, ask her in the hallway. Let's just go. We have another public hearing after that, and we have to be respectful. So Cindy, you want to go?
Yes.
Forward, please.
First, I want to read a letter for Ethel Sussman, who couldn't be here tonight. She says, "To the Town Board of Riverhead, as a resident of Riverhead, I write regarding pending legislation 52C concerning the location of firearm businesses within our town. Riverhead is investing a great deal of money, time, and effort to position our town as a family-friendly destination. That being so, we need to proceed with the greatest of care as we consider how our town is viewed by potential visitors. Public safety is the primary responsibility of town government, and public safety is everyone's number one concern. Riverhead needs to be safe and also needs to be perceived as safe, obviously for our tax-paying residents, as well as the visitors and investors we hope to attract. In today's world, gun violence has become of great concern, and access to firearms plays an obvious role. If guns are to be available for purchase and use, the conditions of their availability must be tightly regulated for the protection of all concerned. The location of establishments selling guns must be considered, as well as their hours of operation, their methods of doing business, security, surveillance, record-keeping, etc., and many other aspects of doing business. The additional demands on our already overstretched police department and code enforcement must also be taken into account. A business selling guns or providing ancillary facilities such as firing range cannot be viewed in the same way as a grocery store or a dress shop. This is not business as usual. In light of the above, I strongly urge the town board to postpone consideration of this legislation until further study can be conducted and all aspects of the issue can be investigated thoroughly. We also need additional public hearings at times convenient for all and with proper advance. This is nothing less than the future of our town and how it will be viewed for years to come. Thank you for your consideration." And now, I'm still Cindy Clifford. I'll try to be brief. A lot of this was already covered from other speakers, but first of all, I also really want to thank the town board, and I really want to thank Eric Howard for quickly acting to establish parameters for firearm businesses in Riverhead. I know that Tim and Yvette, you've both had extensive training, you've had experience with firearms, and I'm certain you both agree that safety is rule one. Protecting our town's residents and reputation would be a close second. Riverhead has carefully crafted parameters for cannabis sales and use. It seems reasonable to establish similar limitations for firearm business uses, and if you're going to put together a panel, like to be on that. However, while this current revision, as other people have mentioned, sets 1,000 feet minimum distance for schools, houses of worship, playgrounds, etc., the required distance for residences is only 150 feet. Whether this is a typo or an accidental oversight, it seems that should be addressed and corrected. Also, why was the CRC added in after the first draft was posted, and who recommended it? But that's like, I know you're not going to
It was
answer
never
that.
supposed to be out.
It was never supposed to be out?
It was
Okay.
always in.
It was, well,
it had been in
originally, the first
prior to
draft that
all
was
this.
up didn't have it in, and
That was
then...
the wrong draft, which is why it got replaced
Okay,
with
the
other
wrong draft, that would explain it. Given the potential negative impact on real estate values, restricting firearm businesses to industrial zoning districts would serve to further distance them from our residential, social, and retail areas, as well as bolster our ongoing efforts to make Riverhead a welcoming, family-friendly community and destination. Permitting firearm businesses in our mainstream areas could further diminish our reputation and make more work for our public image. I understand that variances and special permits are part of doing business, but in this case, is there any way we could finalize this revision to take future variances off the table? Years from now, a different town board could vote to let a firing range or gun store open up in one of the hamlets or around the corner from one of our houses. Which brings me to how shooting ranges are suddenly considered sports and recreation under our zoning codes, when in actuality, they go against the intent of that category. Sports and recreation became an added use for our shopping center, business center, and CRC districts in 2006 at the request of lawyer Charles Cuddy to allow for a client's potential bowling alley on Route 58. The transcript, which can be found in the minutes of the November 21st, 2006 Town Board public hearing, quoted the only speaker, Mr. Cuddy, saying this would permit a bowling center, perhaps indoor tennis, maybe even an indoor swimming pool. And those types of things in the community would certainly be worthwhile, and I ask you to approve it. In that context, a firearm shooting range does not equate to the intended family-friendly activities as described by Mr. Cuddy. I'm not trying to stop any reputable business from coming into Riverhead. This isn't about guns or no guns, but businesses need to be appropriate for their location, for our residents and their homes need to be respected, and the zoning code needs to continue to serve the communities it was written for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Good. Okay, hi. Welcome
Hi,
back.
Takwi Turchin from Calverton, speaking on my own behalf. I will be very brief. I see it's 10 after 9. You still have another hearing to go. I think we're all taking a deep breath after all the words that have been said tonight. After listening to many of these speakers, there's much that I agree with, and one is that this subject does need more examination and more time. I would ask that we leave the hearing open for the recommended or required 10 days for written comment, and then we close it, but then we...
You don't need to leave it open, but my policy is to leave it open for 10 days. Just, it's not a requirement, it's a choice that we agreed. So, but I will be leaving it open for 10 days.
So my request would be at the end of those 10 days that we reopen this with more considered participation of experts and also more of our residents. Clearly tonight, the house is still packed, and we started at, 6 o'clock. So this is an important topic to our residents. I do feel for the gentleman who came up who has a business interest on Main Street, and he got some sort of an approval. I'm not sure how that happened. I would love to have that explained to us. But, gun stores aren't like, firearms sales are not like selling ice cream. They're more like dynamite factories. The level of care and their level of consideration of whether you want that anywhere near residents. And I learned tonight there's 12, 13 different zones in Riverhead that would potentially be available for this type of use. I would caution us as a whole, as people here in Riverhead, to realize that when you open the door for this type of sales and activity, that it's looked at like, well, let's go there. It's not like, when t-shirt shops were considered in vogue in Santa Barbara when I was going to school there. I don't want to see that happen here in Riverhead. I'd like for us to take a very sobering look at it and it is difficult not to be emotional about some of the effects, and certainly we need to stick on the topic of zoning tonight. I would ask that you finish the hearing out, reopen it, bring experts, bring more of the public to bear. Thank you.
Okay, you up next?
Hi, Laura Jane Smith from Laurel. I think you've heard a lot from everybody that came up here. I would just like to reiterate that I think to remove the fire ranges from the CRC, I would ask that you do consider that. And one of the other questions I have, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but it's that a special permit would be needed to move forward with the firearm uses. Is that correct, Eric?
Yes.
So, and then there are some, I guess it's number 3, 4, and 5 with the minimum criteria and limitations for approval for the special permit. I think 3 is what many people address with the 150 feet, the 1,000 feet from private to public K through 12 schools, and then the 1,000 feet of daycare centers and things like that. So, and whatever that washes out to be, from hearing from the public, if you want to extend that or consider that. But one of the questions I have is then for point number 6 in here where it says, in appropriate circumstances, the town board may grant a special permit for a firearms business use even if the location of the proposed use does not comply with the buffer requirements set forth in this code, but upon finding that the proposed location is sufficiently buffered by existing conditions such as the use of enumerated in sections 3, 4, and 5 herein above with will not be adversely impacted by the firearms business use. My question is, why wouldn't that be something that the zoning board would address? So you're creating circumstances for a special permit in a zone, and somebody would be asking for an exception to not adhere to the requirements of that zoning that you have in place. Why is that at the purview of the town board then? Why would that not be at the purview of the applicant taking that to the zoning board to have a variance on what is put forth in this legislation?
Just because it's a special permit that goes to the town board, and there wasn't a need, I didn't see a need to give the zoning board of appeals oversight over the town board.
But the special board doesn't, the special permit from the town board, when the town board grants a
So-
special permit, it doesn't give them the ability to say, okay, you can have a special permit, but we're not gonna give you, you don't have to do all those buffers. They have to go for a variance to that, to the zoning board.
The special permit would include, an application for that waiver. So they'd have a plan that they'd submit, conceptually, and they'd say, this is our plan, except we need, this.
They need a variance
we
to
need this
the.
waiver
but
in order to,
But what,
in order to have this go forward.
what other zoning do we allow waivers on special permits such as this for setbacks?
This is to give the town board final say over these types of applications. That's what it's designed to do.
I understand the design
at
of
a
it, but I'm
public
just
hearing,
asking,
can
what
we
other
stay on the
zoning do we
code?
allow waivers for buffers that does not require a variance?
Going back and forth,
Most
we
don't
need.
go to the town board.
It's a public hearing about just, I'm not trying to argue with Eric. I'm just asking because it is highly unusual in a special permit, because it's a
But
special
this is a
permit.
public hearing, you can make those comments after, and you were supervisor prior to me. So you know that you're under the public comments, you can try to bring that up. Let's stay focused on the legislation. You're questioning, you're bringing in the ZBA, you're bringing in all these other things. Let's just stay focused on the public hearing, Laura, I would really appreciate it. It's a long night, we have one more. You have an agenda, bring it back at the end. We'll listen to your agenda.
I believe
Absolutely.
Mr. Howard was willing to answer the question, because I would imagine the board would want to know also.
Well,
I see Tim
it's
nodding
just-
that he
It's
would like to
correct.
know.
I think she's point on with the public hearing.
The way, the way that
Yeah.
it's drafted is just, it's the way that it's drafted. It gives the town board who the special permit goes to final say over the waiver. That's the intention. Town board they're the elected officials, you're giving them the authority to review it. They get the recommendations from the planning board, and then ultimately whether there's a waiver on a buffer or some other lighting requirement, I don't know, sign permit, whatever.
It's
just that is all considered in part in the context of that special permit application.
I haven't seen it in any other special permits where we've been allowed to change buffers. You know, it's just, I would like to see, and I'm not being argumentative, but I would like to know if you come up and I can give you a call afterwards, what other special permit applications that we have that the town board
Perfect,
approves
make that call.
would allow
Yes.
you to change buffers.
Yeah, perfect.
Off
You
the
make
top of my
that,
head, I wouldn't know.
yeah, make that call and let's
It
stay
might be
focused.
something you might be interested in finding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
God bless you for your patience. Believe me.
Yes, it takes a lot of patience, especially when you're dealing with former politicians. Okay, anybody online?
Doesn't want to speak.
Okay, so, board, you want to close it? Let's go, let's move it forward. The time now is 9:18. We're going to close this public portion of this hearing, and we're going to leave it open for written comment until 4:30 PM on July 1st, 2022, at the clerk's office. I see a lot of people leaving, get home safe. And those who are staying, I give you a lot of credit for hanging in here with us.
Alec has to.
Including Alex, including Alex.
Take a 1 hour dinner recess.
Okay, so the room is pretty much emptying out. Let's just give them a couple of minutes to empty out. And then we're going to commence our last public meeting.
I just learned 3 hours is the limit for my recorder.
Oh, you did? Oh, we
Right.
broke your record?
No, it reset.
Oh, okay.
Can I just get
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am.
a message? I'm a Eucharistic minister.
Mr. Przanowski, do you want us to take a dinner break for a little while? Is that what you're asking for?
Couple hours?
No?
No.
All right,
Lifesaver.
we're doing emergency here. We're giving Bob water. There you go.
Thank you, Deb.
Mr. Howard, please make sure.
Oh.
There's a message on there. I'm a Eucharistic minister. Oh, so nice.
Thank
Is this under the $75 value as a gift?
Very sweet, Charlotte. You're right, life is fragile. Sometimes we don't appreciate it.
Next hearing.
So, we're going on. We're moving on to our last public hearing, which was scheduled for 6:15. It is,
It was wishful thinking, Supervisor.
I know. It is now 9:21, and we're going to commence this public hearing. It's in consideration of a local law to amend Chapter 301 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Zoning and Land Development Anaerobic Digesters. And we have Jeff here, our planner, our head planner, and he's going to provide us with an overview of this topic. Good evening, Jeff. Sorry to keep you waiting so long. We had a little bit of a lively conversation
Absolutely not a problem at
prior
all.
to that. So
Good evening, everybody. Jefferson Murphy. Earlier this spring, my office received a use permit application for a food waste processing facility. And on March 4th of this year, I issued a denial letter, believing that it did not fit in with the purpose and intent of the PIP, Professional Industrial Park zoning use district. And there's currently an appeal of my decision pending before the zoning board. The reason for my denial is I felt that it was too close and akin to one of the other prohibited uses, which is garbage disposal dumps, landfills, incinerators, or transfer stations. So the public hearing you have before you tonight seeks to clarify what an anaerobic digester is, and there's a definition that's being proposed for you. And also, there is an exclusion or prohibition of that use in both the Industrial A and the PIP zoning use districts. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, anyone from the public want to come forward? Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. Mark Hobner from
How you doing?
Aquabog.
Okay.
And I noticed that we started with Sid with interesting, with the drive-through, then we went to controversial, and now we're going to sexy.
Sexy. Okay, at this time of night? Okay.
I know I get your attention, at least.
Yeah.
Anaerobic digestion, I'm here actually on behalf of the Environmental Advisory Committee. We prepared a statement, issue brief and position statement on this.
more to give clarification, to give information to the public, but also to give clarification to our options. To put this into perspective, anaerobic digestion is a scientific process that's been around for hundreds of years. It includes biological, chemical, and physical processes that are complex, diverse, and provide dozens of products which can be used in hundreds of applications. For discussion in the town of Riverhead, however, we will limit our scope to the inputs and outputs of a system designed for several needs and benefits. The last 2 landfills on Long Island are closing in 100 months. That's 2.5 years, 2024. Fully 25% of our solid waste is currently food waste and are the target of the New York State DEC's efforts in aiding the reduction of food waste and the reuse of food scraps as a resource. Town of Riverhead has 8 large generators of food scraps, creating 2 tons per week each. Walmart, Best Market, 2 hotels, Splish Splash, the college. These are the first in line which are required to dispose of their food scraps in a designated food scrap treatment facility, of which we don't have one, and we're not even close enough to Yaphank to qualify. This could be either an anaerobic digester without oxygen or an aerobic composting presence of oxygen facility. The biggest contributor of food waste, however, is the residential sector. 36,000 people of Riverhead creating 18,000 pounds, half a pound apiece, of food scraps every day for a total of 9 tons. The remaining 30% of the total food waste comes from our restaurants, college, the nursing homes, hospitals, and schools, which create another 6,000 pounds only per day, which is 3 tons. So 6 and 3, 9, 10, 12, 14 tons maximum right now. Even without an effort in reduction of food waste, which is planned through our work with the engineering department and other entities, Riverhead's demand for digestion, either anaerobic or aerobic, is far less than 20 tons a day. Anaerobic digesters produce renewable natural gas, which is methane in this case, and it's piped directly into the compressed natural gas grid, CNG or street gas, which provides a stream of revenue for the provider of the product. A provider can be a private equity, public-private partnership, or municipally owned and operated facility. Another product of an anaerobic digester is compost, which can be treated and managed into a saleable product as well. Aerobic digestion, however, is a greens or food plus browns, meaning yard waste, operation which creates high-quality compost as the only product. With so many options at hand for what used to be food waste, we can start to see this as a resource to be recovered and reused to the benefit of everyone involved. Our committee welcomes the chance to continue working with the town board and other departments to take advantage of the benefits of sensible and scientific approaches to our solid waste issues.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
You obviously did your research.
Yeah, 5 years of it, I'm afraid.
Okay. I could tell. Next. Toki? Tokwi? Do you want to come up?
Mark, there's got to be some other people on that committee.
Are you done? Or,
Yeah, that was it. I'm sorry.
yeah, I thought you were done.
The end, yes.
Okay, so I called up Tokwi. Okay.
I think I got homework given to me. Tokvi Turchin with Calverton Civic. Just have to queue up. There we are. So I am speaking on the anaerobic digester technology. I'm reading to you a 2-pager letter, which shouldn't take too long. It is a statement on behalf of the citizens named below, and I'll mention them at the end. We object to the proposed prohibition of anaerobic digesters in any zoning use district within the town of Riverhead. We believe that with proper sizing and siting, anaerobic digestion technology can help reduce taxes, boost our efforts to achieve our 2030 food waste requirements, help us improve the overall health of the soil in our community, and reduce our carbon emissions. Riverhead, along with all the municipalities on Long Island, has a food waste problem with which we need to deal. Our town creates and disposes, as Mark mentioned, of 12 tons of food waste every day. An oversized 100, 200, or 600 ton per day unit, which would need out-of-town feedstock like poop from Manhattan, is unnecessary and unwarranted for the amount we create. While we are not advocating for a blanket approval of ADs of any size and in any place, we understand and agree why you may want to explicitly prohibit large 100-ton plus ADs. We believe there are many benefits to allowing AD technology of various smaller on-site systems to handle Riverhead's food waste. Consideration could be given to an AD limited to Riverhead's needs of up to 20 tons per day, which would be appropriate for our town, or even several smaller units which would provide cumulative capacity to 20 tons per day, leaving room to expand if necessary. Combined with the food waste reduction effort, we could keep the town's needs within that limit and be servicing the town of Riverhead only at a reasonable cost. We don't expect an anaerobic digester to be the near-term answer to the problem, as there is still much to be learned from other communities which are already using this technology. But we expect ADs may have positive impact as one of the long-term solutions to our food waste problem. All of these solutions would provide several benefits to our community by reducing expenses, by reducing thereby reducing taxes, by cutting carting fees for the reduced volume of waste and selling the methane from these systems. Additionally, our topsoil is disappearing at a rapid pace. It is a precious resource that should and would greatly benefit from the addition of high-quality compost created by an AD, even though compost is not a primary product or the main purpose of this technology. Creating nutrient-rich compost would help our farmers reverse the loss of topsoil and provide more and healthier crops. We've been working with our town engineer, Drew Dillingham, on ways to implement the goals of our solid waste management plan, which we adopted on April 5th, 2022. Working together, we have identified short, medium, and long-term solutions to our solid waste issues. Our plan incorporates the DEC's mandate of a 90% reduction of our food waste by 2030, some 25% of the total solid waste stream. While much work needs to be done to determine if an AD is the best solution for us to achieve our town's goals, right now this technology is still a viable option for us in the long term. We strongly recommend that we will all spend some time in analyzing system applicability, collect and address public comments, accept and endorse a possible move to a decentralized option, bring the conversation to the AKRF and the comprehensive plan update process, and include the possibility in the plan itself. But by eliminating this solution to our solid waste problems as a possibility today, it greatly reduces our chances of achieving our stated and mandated solid waste goals. You'd think I'd be done by now. We urge you to consider revising the proposed legislation for prohibition accordingly. And sincerely signed, Mark Hobner, Alcoag, New York, Lisa Gavalas, South Jamesport, Barbara Blast, Jamesport, New York, Talkie Church and Calverton, Sid Bale, Wading River, and Angela DeVito, South Jamesport. I'd also like to add that I was able to speak with our civic board on this, and as you know, an anaerobic digester was in the picture for Youngs Avenue 3 years ago, perhaps it's 4, and there was very strong resistance to it. It was one of those great big large ones, right? And now it's going, that same applicant is proposing EPCAL. I think it's somewhere near the same gigantic size. The people who live in Timber Park, which is probably about 120 plus homes, our trustees who live there have said that they're in agreement with this letter. I didn't sign on as Calverton Civic, however, I am as the civic head signing this letter. I do want to let you know that my board has full support on this. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Barbara Bless, Jamesport. I almost forgot. That's not even funny. Okay. The town of Riverhead has a responsibility, as do all municipalities, to manage its solid waste. In fact, a municipality must have a solid waste management plan approved by the New York State DEC. As a solid waste management facility, an anaerobic digester may have a place in a municipality's overall management strategy. However, I fully support the prohibition of anaerobic digesters of the size and scope that would require importation of waste from outside of the town of Riverhead. As a host community, Riverhead has a long history of addressing regional issues while absorbing significant impacts. At this time, as you've heard, Riverhead generates only a total of approximately 12 tons a day of residential, commercial, and institutional food waste. I respectfully submit for your consideration the concept of permitting smaller decentralized systems strategically located throughout the town, which would have few, if any, significant environmental impacts. The cumulative capacity for such systems should be limited to 20 tons per day to ensure that we're managing waste generated from within our community only. Further, there is grant funding from the New York State DEC to assist municipalities in managing and reducing their waste stream, specifically food waste. Please schedule this topic for a work session discussion to allow individuals with the knowledge and understanding of waste reduction and reuse strategies to provide additional relevant information for your consideration. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Barbara.
Nicholas DePiero from Wading River. I think there should be a couple of things that should be considered. I was going to ask what type of facility, what is going to be processed at this waste facility? I believe I got the answer. It's going to be food waste. My question is, how is food waste going to be separated from regular garbage? Another question is, a long time ago, when Grumman Aerospace was in business, there was trucks, lots of trucks bringing sub-assemblies. But those trucks were bringing sub-assemblies to the Grumman facility at night. I'm wondering what type of trucks, and when are they going to be transporting this waste if this facility is approved at Calverton? Now, we heard mentioned before that a lot of landfills are being closed. Currently, there is a big facility off of Sills Road that's being developed as a waste transfer station. Wouldn't it make sense to have this facility located near that waste transfer station? Because that would cut down on the truck traffic, if there is going to be any truck traffic. I think it would be a good idea if the town of Riverhead and the proponent of this facility and Brookhaven Town have that kind of discussion. Another question is, if this is approved at Calverton, what kind of trucks are going to be bringing it there, and what, I would assume that there's going to be sealed containers, but some of those sealed containers can contain rats. I know we have enough wild animals around here, but we don't need any rats in the food. They do somehow get involved with food waste. So we don't want any rats in that area. We probably have them already, but we don't need any more. So that's just a couple of things to consider. The truck traffic, when? During the day or night? It would be preferable at night because, again, we have to address the traffic situation, and it's getting unbearable lately. The traffic should be, if there's going to be any truck traffic, they should also do like Grumman Aerospace did, bring those trucks in at night. I don't think there's anything else I have to say at this time. I probably might have more questions later on, but for now, I'm finished speaking.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next.
Mark
Welcome.
Honor again.
That was quick.
Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah.
Just briefly, the Yaphank facility, Vigliotti's facility, is part of Long Island Compost, and it's 600 tons a day. They stated publicly that they'd be bringing trainloads of food waste up from Virginia and North Carolina. That's not solving our regional problem or Riverhead's at all.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone online?
15 people waiting?
We have 15. Did you want to wait?
There's about to be a power outage.
Just for the
All right.
record, Vic Pershnowski, representing CSEA Energy. For the 15 people online, we gave a complete presentation to the Zoning Board of Appeals on television. I made sure we had it posted, and it went out to everybody in town, and I have a lot of the answers to the questions, but let's listen to everybody, and then I'll go last, if you don't mind, Supervisor.
Okay, no problem.
Wait, is
I
there
think
really,
you're last.
there's
I
nobody,
think
he
you're
was
last.
kidding.
He was kidding.
It was kidding. Come on, Vic.
Don't worry, there'll be
We waited here
payback
for
on
3
that.
hours for this, and you make a joke like that? Oh. Vic Pershnowski, CSEA Energy. We're the applicant that, by the way, as I said to Tim Hubbard, I didn't work for these guys until I came to a meeting here with United Riverhead Terminal on our biotanks, and I sat in the back and watched the presentation to the town board about putting this facility at the landfill. So that's when I got involved with this group back 4 years ago. So originally, they came to the town looking for some financing or funding, and they thought it'd be a great location. Just on a side note, I was at the solar workshop because one of my clients, we're going to be bidding on putting a solar, the bid for the landfill. And Mr. McCormick, the town attorney, said, we're not going to call this a solar project. We're going to call this a renewable energy project. You guys come back with us, things that we haven't even thought of. Well, this would qualify with that statement, but it's the wrong location. So to start off on the public hearing tonight, I read the code amendment. I completely agree with the code amendment except for one extent. This digester, or any digester, does not belong anywhere in town except at the EPCAL site, specifically the PIP zoning, the Plain Industrial Park. That's the proper place. You have the utilities, the rail spur, the gas is there, the transformers from the power company. So I think if you want to amend the code this way. This is what the hearing's about. I would prohibit the anaerobic digester in all the industrial zones, all the business zones, all the zones in the town of Riverhead, except for the Plain Industrial Park. When the ZBA attorney called me and said, look, the ZBA likes the project, they like the concept. Actually, Barbara Blast came up to the podium that night and said, she, as you heard tonight, she is in favor of this type of renewable energy, but thought that it was unfair for the Zoning Board of Appeals to make an interpretation. We believe that we made the criteria that we're a manufacturing facility and we're not a transfer station, garbage, and we have the engineer's report, which I'm going to give to the town. We have 10 days here. I'm going to give all this documentation. So she said, would you be in favor of, so we put our application was tabled, has not been voted on, and I said, hey, if we can get it through the town board to do it the right, to do it a code amendment, I agree with Barbara, it should not be left. These things, anomalies in the code should be cleaned up as we do this new zoning. So originally, the proposal was to allow the digester in PIP specifically, to clarify it, and by a special permit. So, and it would be, the way we wrote it was indoors, within 2,000 feet of the rail spur to encourage the rail spur use, which I'll get to in a minute because we fully intend to do that, and by special permit. So even before a site plan, and by the way, we have no other application pending in this town to build anything other than the Zoning Board of Appeals to clarify the zoning. So that would give the safety check to the town board by allowing it, just like you're going to do with the gun law that you just passed. You want to make some aspects of it by special permit, so that the applicant, we would have to come in and prove our case that we comply with the town code. The other thing is, not only the town code, but we made it's the best interest of the community. But the other thing with a special permit, as you people know on the town board, if you approve a special permit, and that's before we have to go through the site plan and everything, you can put conditions on the operation. So if you don't want garbage coming in from New York City, or for an example. So that's where I think, if you're we'll just go and have a discussion on this, that keep the prohibition in all the zones across the board, except for the Plain Industrial Park, because that's the only place, that's the only location that something like this should be allowed because of the infrastructure It's in the middle of the park, it's in the middle of the Berman subdivision park. It took us 3 years to find property, and we do have a legal document signed to purchase 8.2 acres on Scott Avenue at Berman, I believe. No, Scott. And that's where we would locate the digester, or we would consider where we put the digester. So the permitting process on this is about 24 months. We need approval from the EPA, the New York State DEC, the Suffolk County Health Department, all the local town, the town regulatory, we have to get site plan and everything else. Plus, this would definitely be a type 1 action. We'd be doing a full environmental study. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. A couple of things and we cleared it up at the ZBA, but I'll just restate it. We're not taking garbage from New York City. Actually, we can't take garbage from New York City. They can from out of state. New York State DEC, on that famous law that was just quoted, we have to reduce our waste down to 10% by 2000, whatever. They put a provision in there that once a digester is fully licensed and operational, all the businesses and food purveyors, restaurants, commercial entities within a 25-mile radius of the digester are required to send their organic waste to the digester. That's a New York State law, which Dawn has. I sent it to the ZBA, and I think I emailed it to the... So right off the bat, that our primary market will be a 25-mile radius around the digester. Nobody is going to, nobody's going to come here unless the town of Riverhead wants to get back into the garbage business or the solid waste business and build its own digester. Because if you build something as small as 10 or 20 tons a day, it will have to be municipally operated because there's not enough profit in it for anybody to build it. What Vigilata is doing is he's building a 650-ton per day, yes, and he's right by that rail spur in Yaphank, so he's going to bring all the garbage in. We're going to utilize the rail spur to mainly bring material in, but mostly to export our byproducts from the generation product. The other thing is, there's not enough experience with digesters. So I'll get to that in a minute. I have here an EPA report of the 1,400 digesters that are in the country right now. They did a study on January 2021. This gives, and I'm going to give it for the town board, this gives a complete history of all the digesters, the different kinds of digesters that are in the country, and it's a thorough report, and I want to have the clerk distribute it to the town board. Okay. This will give you a good background. What the digester is.
All right,
So,
Vic,
Arnie,
we
just
just,
to summarize
Vic,
here, go ahead.
if
Yeah.
I could just real quick, we need to stay focused on the proposed code change, which is whether they should be prohibited.
Right,
across the
and I
board.
just
All
addressed
right.
that. I said,
Okay.
I'm for the, in fact, I want to expand the code
All right,
prohibit.
But what I'm getting to is not necessarily,
Any particular project.
yeah, any particular
No,
project
I understand that, but
or an opportunity to advocate
No, I
in
understand that,
favor
but in
of
order to get to that, there is, in the work session that I saw on television, that I wasn't here at, that there was some misinformation, and based on that information, I just want to clear a few points up here, is a thought process for the town board. I used to sit up there for 16 years, so you have to have a thought process on whether or not this prohibition makes sense. I was happy to hear the Calverton Civic Association and the other people, and Barbara, we would very much want to work with the town to achieve those goals. In our solid waste management plan, which we originally adopted in the 90s when we went to garbage districts, renewable energy was part of it, and I'm sure it is in our current renewable project. So the one thing is, no New York City garbage. Yes, the purveyors themselves, the Mattituck Sanitations, they're going to bring a lot of the material to the site. There is no odor because of the new technology that is used, where we suck the air in for the aerobic digestion process. A lot of these questions are for the special permit hearing and for site plan, and the burden is on the applicant. So as far
So
as.
why don't we put this up
That's-
for work session?
Yeah, so, but here's the
Okay,
thing,
to
here's the thing,
further expand
for
it
the
and
code
stay
tonight,
focused.
like I said,
Okay.
I think it should be banned in every zone in the town except for PI. It's the only place where this goes. We definitely want to utilize the rail spur. We definitely have the gas there, the electric. So that's why for the code, it makes sense. And it should be allowed by special permit. So then the town board has another check on this thing where we have a special permit hearing. The burden is on the applicant to answer all the questions and concerns that were brought up from the audience and from the town board.
Okay, we'll put it up for a work session just to add the rest of what you want. So we'll focus, let's just stay focused on the opinion.
Right, and the size of the plant is our plant is 250 tons per day.
Okay.
I think you clarified the fact that an anaerobic digester can be on a much smaller scale.
Right.
And that we're not so.
And the revenues,
so
since
when
we're
you're
on
considering
TV,
a
the
code
revenue
change-
sources are the tipping fees we collect from the carters, the money we're gonna collect from the National Grid, the gas company, because we're gonna process the gas to a higher level, and it'll be accepted by national, and then the cogeneration plant, which our plan is, and actually 555 actually contacted us about providing. So what we can do in the meantime is, and it's going to take 24 months to get this thing approved, but the cogeneration plant, we would offer electricity at a reduced rate inside the park to the park customers, which has always been a plan, as I can remember. I know I about to represent the Hustler Manufacturing, the boat guy, across from our lot, and he said, "You sign me up if it's going to reduce my energy costs." So that would be the third revenue stream we have on.
To summarize, you
I'm
think
done.
it should be prohibited across all zoning use
Right,
districts
except
except
for
for
PIP.
PIP?
Except for the planned industrial
Industrial
park
park.
and by special permit of the town board.
Okay.
Now, these other things, and Dawn actually has a draft of what she wrote, completely indoor operation, no outdoor storage, within 2,000 feet of the rail spur, stuff like that.
Some other conditions?
Right.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to work with everybody to do it, and that would be a fair way. Then the burden's on the applicant, and at the end of the special permit hearing, if you don't think it's a good thing for the town. But I agree with the speakers previously. This is a renewable energy project, which is the state of the world today. Gas is up to $5, and you got to get electricity from it. So at least in the industrial park, our generation facility will be able to offer better, electric rates inside the industrial park themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Barbara, you had someone?
Just a final comment. If the board is inclined to approve or permit anaerobic digesters of a size that goes beyond what is generated in the town of Riverhead, I really believe it should be subject to some sort of a community benefit agreement that is not necessarily specific just to EPCAL, although of course we all want to see EPCAL prosper and grow. But again, we're a host community. We're getting potentially solid waste from other communities. There should be something very specific as a community benefit to the town of Riverhead. Thank you very much.
I completely agree with Barbara Blass. Tim, I mentioned this to you. Yes, there will
I'm
definitely,
gonna go
and
get
you
the
could,
hook, Vic, and I'm gonna start dragging you out that door.
well,
Come
I
on.
know it's 10 o'clock, but, we used to start meetings at 8 o'clock and end at 1 o'clock. But yes, I
I
think
can see why, they
she.
probably let you talk.
Right, no, but here's the thing. Barbara's right. We would definitely be in favor of that, and the community should get something
Great.
over and above the property tax.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
so we all agree, anyone online? No? You're gonna say 51 people. Okay, so now we're gonna close this public portion of the meeting, and we're gonna leave it open until 4:30 PM on July 1st, 2022 at the town clerk's office. This is gonna conclude the public hearing portion of our meeting here today. At 2 hours, it'll be.
That must mean it's 6:20 now.
Yeah. I know. We will now move on to the public comments on the resolutions before us today. Does anyone wish to be heard? I think almost everybody left. We did have a pack.
They went home and they signed it on.
So do we have anyone that wants to make a public comment? No. Okay, this is before the resolution, so therefore, what, Diane, can you please read the resolution?
Yes. Resolution 449.
Riverhead Sewer District Capital Project 82210, Class A Biosolids Facility Budget Adoption. So moved.
Seconded.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 450.
North Point Development Sewer Capital Project number 82209, Budget Adoption. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 451.
Justice Court Equipment Purchase Budget Amendment. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 452.
Appoints a seasonal recreational aide to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 453.
Appoints a seasonal recreational aide number 2 to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 454.
Ratifies the appointment of a seasonal office assistant. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 455.
Appoints a call-in recreation specialist to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 456.
Appoints a call-in recreation specialist to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 457.
Ratifies the appointment of a seasonal registered nurse to the Recreation Department. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 458.
Appoints a deputy financial administrator. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 459.
2022 to 2023 CHIPS Road Resurfacing Grant CP 52211 Budget Adoption. So moved.
Second.
Kern, please. I'm sorry, Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Say yes.
Yes. No, I'm giving it to him.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 460.
2022-23 paved New York Road resurfacing grant CP 52212. So moved.
Seconded.
Kern.
Vote please.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 461.
2022-2023 EWR Road Resurfacing Grant CP 52213. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 462.
2022 and 2023 pave our potholes, POP, Road Resurfacing Grant CP 52214 Budget Adoption. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 463.
Extends bid for removal of household hazardous waste. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 464.
Extends bid non-pro-tunc for disposal and recycling of municipal solid waste. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 465.
Authorizes notice to bidders, Test Well Program Phase 2 rebid, Contract A, installation of monitoring wells, Contract B, installation of test boring, Riverhead Water District Capital Project Number 4/RDWD 1804. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 466.
Who's going to do it?
Authorizes, yep,
I just wanted to point out, this one is slightly different from the one that was posted on Friday afternoon. Over the weekend, Lucha Cubano came out, got the go-ahead to be on this resolution with Diggers. So Lucha Cubano was added to this resolution.
So we're going to take this resolution, we'll take a vote, and we'll amend it to add,
Or is it,
yeah, we'll amend it first to add
yeah,
Lucha Cabano
yep,
Yes,
to this along with Diggers.
yes.
right.
Okay, I don't see their name on
So-
this one.
No, Diggers is
so-
on here, though.
So
Yeah, Diggers
everywhere,
is on here, but we're
everywhere
amending
it
it
says,
for-
Yeah.
everywhere it says Diggers, it should, after Diggers, say, and Lucha Cubano.
And, okay, so,
Authorizes SC Net Worth Incorporated, DBA Diggers Fine Food and Spirits, Diggers, also Lucho Cabano, to conduct outdoor dining and alcohol service at the Alive on 25 Street Festival on July 1st, July 15th, July 29th, August 12th, 2022, rain date August 19th, 2022, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., adjacent to Diggers Main Street entranceway, also adjacent to Lucho Cabano's entryway, suspends Riverhead Town Code Section 253, permit for outdoor dining as solely limited to the aforementioned dates, time and place of the Alive on 25 Street Festival. So moved.
Seconded. Good job.
okay, can we vote as amended, please?
Kern.
yes,
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 467.
Approve special event Chapter 255 application for Halleckville Museum Farm Country Fair. So moved.
See, you haven't had enough of Frank's, you're stealing mine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
After that
See,
whole
the
mouthful.
They
Bob,
Rob
we
Rothwell,
should
they're
just
like
go
the
home.
same person to me. I think they're both here in one body tonight.
all right, I'll second that.
Okay, we're going to vote on that.
Kern.
Yes,
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 468.
approves fireworks application for Riverhead bid management, July 1st, 2022, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes, pray for good weather.
Aguirre.
Yes. Last
Resolution.
year, we had record-breaking attendance.
Mhm.
So
Resol-
this year, hopefully, it's going to repeat itself. And again, you're right, hope for good weather. I'll vote
Resolution.
please.
Resolution
Yep, you
adopted.
voted. Next.
Resolution 469.
Authorizes the removal of all litter, garbage, refuse, rubbish, yard waste, weeds, noxious plants, grass, and/or rank vegetation in excess of 10 inches in height upon the premise known as 225 Pulaski Street, Riverhead, New York, AKA Suffolk County Tax Map Number 0600-126-1-23 pursuant to Riverhead Town Code, Chapter 251. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Does Mr. Hubbard want to clarify noxious plants?
No, not at 10 o'clock at night.
So moved, yes.
Hubbard.
That would be my crabgrass after I spray deer spray around the yard. That's very noxious. Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 470.
Authorizes selling of the 2022 daily boat launch permit by Warren's Tackle Center. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 471.
Authorizes the supervisor to sign a professional services agreement with Sam Schwartz Consulting.
You skipped ahead, pal.
What?
What did we do in
Out of order.
471?
Oh,
Grants extension of special permit for the application known as 1535 Route 58 LLC for a proposed car wash facility located at 1418 Old Country Road in Riverhead, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-101-2-12.6. So moved.
second.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 472.
Authorizes the supervisor to sign a professional services agreement with Sam Schwartz Consulting, LLC. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 473.
Authorizes the supervisor on behalf of the Riverhead Water District to execute a professional service agreement with Steve Calabufo. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 474.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 211, Article 3, Section 14 of the Riverhead Town Code. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 475.
Ratify stipulation.
They're trying
Everybody's stepping over, I might as well answer it.
Ratify stipulation with the Riverhead Town Superior Officers Association, SOA, regarding observation of Juneteenth as a holiday. So moved.
Second.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 476.
Ratify stipulation with the CSEA Local 1000 AFSC and AFL-CIO regarding observation of Juneteenth as a holiday. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
I just realized that.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 477.
Ratify stipulation with the Riverhead Town Police Benevolent Association, the PBA, regarding observation of Juneteenth as a holiday. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 478.
Pays the bills. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote, please.
Kern.
Yes.
Rothwell.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Where's Mr. Street? I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Diane. And this is going to conclude the resolution section for today's meeting. At this point, we're going to open up the meeting to public comments on any other matter. And do we have any members of the public here that would like to come forward? Yes. Yeah, come up.
Seem to be the only one in line. I want to, Dr. Turgeon and Calverton Civic. I want to thank you, Town Board, for having this meeting tonight at 6 p.m. It really does make a difference. I see you saw it also, and thank you for your time, effort, and patience tonight.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tucky. Do we have anyone online? We don't listen to Chip anymore.
Chip, Chip, seriously, I need you to come here.
We definitely don't send Chip to turn up the air
I'll go
conditioning.
down there.
Yeah, right?
No, no.
It must be.
Motion to close.
Yes. So can I have a first and a second to close this meeting?
Somebody put it
Town
down
board
to 50
meeting?
and broke it.
So
That's what
moved.
happened.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good evening. And we'll see you for a town board meeting in 2 weeks. Be safe.
Chip,